by we need to remove item 3A under new business, or A3 under new business. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing, City of Bloomfield, Iowa, to amend Chapter 99.01 rates for sanitary sewer service.
This is the ordinance established per your direction that takes care of about a 50% increase of the money that is necessary for the full rate increase that will build the sewage treatment plant upgrade that we expect to have construction start this coming year. The plan still is just to go to bid in January. I've talked with Heidi Kuhl from Northland, and we are working on a proposal, or I shouldn't say proposal, but options for the second half of that rate increase. And the intention is to provide you with some options for consideration at the next council meeting. We're looking at options in that regard as far as looking at a 50-50, which is a continuation of what's going on here, and then also looking at some increases and or decreases from the base rate vis-a-vis the consumption. But at this point in time, this would be an ordinance that, if approved and if you all waive the reading, would become effective retroactive to the first of this month for bills that would be sent out in August, and collections would start in August for putting together some of the money in advance of the construction of the project, help us pay for some of the engineering costs that already are accumulated.
Motion to open public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Consider and discuss the first reading of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bloomfield, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to rates for sanitary sewer service, section 99.01 rates. Are there any comments from the public? Bruce?
I've here in questioning this, I'm wondering why we're asking the people and the citizens that are in compliance to subsidize the offenders, the people with the sump pumps and the interconnections of the stormwater with the sanitary sewers. This is a problem that's been going on for 40 years. I don't know if the city's fallen short on their disconnections over the history or not. The rate of inflow and infiltration is similar to what it was 40 years ago, so I don't believe there's been any improvements, or perhaps there's been more sump pumps added. Part of the issue of your violations, I expect, is unless the DNR's changed their program. On the old program 40 years ago, that you used to be penalized. The city of Bloomfield was penalized for their discharge numbers when they went out of compliance. If you were out of compliance one day a month, the days you functioned in discharge at rates below 20%, which you're allowed to, weren't allowed to average out. You were penalized for the one day. So that would be an antiquated system when they exceed that. I used to fight with them about that, but at that time there was no EPA and the DNR was doing the whole thing, or actually it was Department of Water and Air Quality. You know, for the people that are having their rates raised, it's like driving down the highway. If you drive by the speed limit, you don't have to pay the fines. If you speed, you get charged for it. The wastewater and sewer system should be the same. You make the abuser pays, not the ones that are legally abiding by the laws and whatever. I'm also thinking back then when the city accepted federal money, for the I&I reports and jobs they've done. It was addressed in those deals that they were supposed to correct the interconnections and go around and monitor the sump pumps. I don't think the corrections or the enforcement of that has been done, and that leaves it all or an unfair burden on the people that are using it as it's supposed to be used. So I think that leaves it in your court, but I hate to see it come down the throats of the people that are not abusing the system and are not creating. The problem with wastewater is if you've got 100 glasses of water and you pour 1 glass of sewer in it, you now have 101 parts of sewage. Nobody wants it that way. So when you take your rainwater and your groundwater and you run it into the sewer plant, you've actually polluted what was good water. And if that can be modified, I think 40 years ago, for every inch of rain we had in town, we'd get an extra 1 million gallons through the sewer plant. And the plant at that time might have had a little more capacity than it did now, but it was a different type of treatment. But that's my 2 cents, and I want it known that I'm not in favor of it unless it can be applied to or regulated in a better means.
Tell them to use the sewer manager.
You know how much water an inch of rain makes?
That's about right, because once we have that, any rain, we definitely go over quite a bit, so. We went through that last rain, we had 4 days of discharge, it was normally 31 days of normal discharge, so 4 days of rain caused 31 days of excess discharge.
This is just the first half of the increase, which basically is increasing the minimum bill for everybody, so.
Which might need updated.
It
I
needs
don't know.
updated, and it's increasing the price per gallon of water bought, and it's straight across the board for everybody. The second, gotta be 1 or 2 more tiers of increasing, and that's what he was talking about. We've got some different ideas we're throwing around to address some of the issue that you're talking about, you know, to try to make, we want to make it fair to everybody. And that's what we're.
And the fairest way you could do it would be eliminating the rainwater and the sump pumps, and you may only have to add 30% to your plant instead of double the size. I don't know what the numbers are. There hasn't been a lot of news out about the design or anything that I found available, but that's just what I feel like, and I felt like I ought to come up and say something.
Well, thanks for your comments.
I can't vote. I just pay taxes and utilities.
Any other comments? Have you received any comments, Sandra?
No, I haven't.
Does any of the council have any questions or?
Just because I'm kind of new to it, what's the timeline? Is this something where the construction has to begin because we've told we have to?
Yes, we have to have this completed according to our permit by 2021. Construction is expected to start in probably about April or May of next year, assuming that we have acceptable bidding that, again, will start in January. It will take us about that time to get the project completed. We'll certainly have it operational. The expectation is by the end of 2021. The design has been approved by the council in its concept form. We have now gone through, there's a 30, 60, and 90% design approval procedures. The council has already approved at the 60% level. We have one more level to do at the 90% level. The 100% level will be effectively when we go to bid. The 90% level is expected to be completed next month. Then that will at the same time allow us to take the plans to the DNR for their approval. They have to give their blessing to this because they're the ones that are overseeing permitting to begin with. We also have to receive their blessing so that we can receive the state revolving fund loan money, which is 2% money right now. It's expected to be 2% money, so it's it's the federal government's way through the state of Iowa, their way of trying to help pay for these mandates based upon effectively loans plus cost.
Are we kind of past the point of like, hey, give us a shot to get this under control?
We're past that. We
Yeah.
have been for quite some time.
And this is an integrated plan, so even though we're doing we're under the timeline to hit the 2021 plan, so we have, and also we're not so much in flow, but it's also the nitrate levels, we have to meet the levels of our requirements. So we're basically building the plant based off the nitrate levels, the capacity, and then on top of that, we're also preparing for expansion. The nitrate levels are all changing, possibly we're going to put in UV in the future. So it's just those kind of things, but also to go back to I&I, so part of the integrated plan is we'll get the plant started, but also we will do an I&I campaign, try to reduce the flow, reduce the.
The problem is we don't have time,
Right.
That's what I was asking.
we don't have time to do to check for the infiltration problem with the short time frame we have to finish the plant. So we gotta build the plant to what our specs are now,
And it's not actually making the plant bigger, it's changing the process.
Yeah.
and we will take care of the sump pump problem, which I guess we're building it bigger in advance, because once we take care of that, then there will be more room for expansion with what we already have. We're going at it backwards, but we don't have time to go at it right.
Well,
That's, yeah.
and understand that integrated plan doesn't mean that we stop in 2021, as Danny's alluded to. One of the things that we're probably be looking at, not just sump pumps, but probably as much of a problem, if not more of a problem, is infiltration to begin with, leaking pipes.
Stormwater.
We see a lot of stormwater coming that way. And that lining of the pipes is a process that could be several $1 million upon completion, and the expectation is that through the approval of this plan, which has effectively received a preliminary approval, we will be doing more work with sanitary sewer past the time of completion of this construction. But it'll be more regional, it'll be more localized actually, as far as dealing with pipes.
Makes sense. Thanks. Sorry to derail.
Any other public comments? Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to consider and discuss the first reading. Motion to pass the first reading.
Move to pass first reading.
I already read that whole item while ago.
Second.
Darren,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Motion to waive the second and third reading. For a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Earl,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Public hearing of the city of Bloomfield, Iowa, to add chapter 39 noise control. Motion to open the public hearing.
Move to the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any questions from the public on the noise control ordinance? Are you familiar with the, I mean,
Yeah, so it's exactly the same as
can we, I mean,
presented
you wanna
to you
give us a quick,
previously.
oh, we don't have to sit here and read it all.
The only changes that have been made have to do with fireworks. So when we did it before, we were talking about really the noise generated by vehicles and the decibel measures and all of those, and measuring where we measure that decibel level. There was a question occurred during the discussion about how we handle fireworks. So Gail made some recommendations to the firework, basically to allow people to do fireworks within the law as it is, without violating the noise ordinance.
An exemption for when I'm yelling at my kids.
No exemptions for yelling at your kids, but if you can do it under the guise of construction, then you're available.
We're past the fireworks deadline, right? So the Facebook fireworks can quit.
Hopefully that'll slow down, yeah. Although there were some booms last night, so we'll see.
There's a few that's got a couple stuck in the closet, yeah.
Leave them out.
One's the other morning at 4 a.m. I was like, Sunday morning.
We had a few extras this year, but I think all in all,
It was a good year.
I think it went pretty good.
Lighter than it was last year.
I don't think we had to arrest anybody or do anything crazy, did we?
No. Nobody got hurt either.
Like anybody caused any fires with them or anything like that? Have you had anything written from?
I've received nothing.
Motion to close the public hearing? So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Consider, discuss the first reading of ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Bloomfield, Iowa by adding chapter 39 noise control. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Jack,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Just the second, third reading thing. We don't have to, we can jump through that and skip it and make it, or we can not pass it, we can have a second reading, or we can, then at that time, we can have a third one. Some of the simpler ones, we just, ordinance, but if there's something that's got some depth to it, or you got any question about it, we don't have to pass it. We don't have to do the, passing the first reading does not make it law. We gotta have the second, third reading to make it law. Got it.
Or
For waiving. Yeah, I think. So motion to consider waiving the second and third readings of said ordinance. Second.
Jack,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Police chief.
Here the next few weeks, we're gonna be busy. We got Ragbri coming through. The fair is gonna be next week. We'll probably be helping out with that. Good news to bring us back, so that frees us up with some paperwork. And we're getting ready for their back to school festival or whatever they have every year around August. Try to get some bikes for the kids and
August
stuff.
6th.
August 6th. And, like you said, 4th of July, just a few complaints, but other than that, I think we had a pretty good year overall, so. That's all I got.
Fire chief.
Fourth came and went. We had a good show. We only had 7 duds out of we had 282 shells we fired off. So we had 7 that didn't go off, and after we investigated, just bad fuses. So other than that, we're getting ready to start into the fair. We want to get all of our hose tested and keep in compliance with ISO. So we've got 238 sections of hose to get tested, hopefully by September 1. So we'll be busy with that. We'll be moving into, I think it's the 9th or 10th of September is the schedule. We'll be having physicals down at Fire Station, Pulaski, Florist, us in Drakesville, so they'll be going in now there to get their required physicals. We won't be doing all of our guys at once, we're splitting that up this year. And hopefully tonight or the next day or so, I'll be filing an amendment with the firefighter assistance grant to wrap up that remaining money and get it spent. So that'll all be done, and we'll be back to just waiting to see what we hear for this next year's award, see if we get any money.
Okay, thanks. No record director. Main Street,
We're finishing up the business incentive plan. We've made some changes. In addition to what we'll be asking you folks for, we've had several businesses. It's kind of grown from about 10 to about 21 businesses now that want to be involved in giving them products and services. So it's kind of escalated, which is good, but it just adds a few things that we need to change on the incentive program as far as folks being able to take advantage of that. So I hope to have that done in the next month or so. Parination Days was down this year. We had a storm come through, so that kind of put a bummer on the night. But other than that, we had some suggestions for changes for next year, and we'll be going to the promotions committee to talk about that, and certainly welcome any other ideas that anybody has for that. Tomorrow night is our Christmas in July movie, and there'll be a tenderloin fry down there, and the Grinch will be there to take pictures, and it's not Matt, so.
Never know.
It won't be Matt yelling at his kids, so, in the downtown market, I just wanted to give you guys some updates on what some of the business is doing. A few months ago, we talked about doing a cross-marketing effort with the county and businesses out in the county. I don't know if you noticed, but Joe Dyer from Red Shed brought in product in one of the empty buildings, and so we're trying to get that done to make, with that cross-marketing effort, and also make those buildings look a little bit better. And jumping on the support each other train, CJ's Restaurant, I just want to recognize them. They have been doing a hashtag Small Town Strong initiative on social media, and right now they're doing an above and beyond contest to promote great service in a small business. So what they do is you nominate people on their Facebook page and give a little blurb about what they've done, and then there'll be a basket that's been filled by all the other small businesses with some kind of product or service that the winner will receive. So CJ's is really taking a hold of this whole Small Town Strong thing and running with it and doing several things to include other small businesses in it. We had a rate writing meeting today, and just to update you guys, we have 25 vendors countywide. These are the vendors that have actually contacted us that are going to be serving food. Those are the only ones that really have to, food or alcohol, because we have to go through ADL for that. We have 19 in Bloomfield. Larry Mill and I tomorrow are going to mark off the vendor sites in the middle parking of Madison Street and Franklin Street, just to make sure we have vendors in the spots they need to be on. And we have a huge map, where those vendors will be placed in those spots, because some have asked for special placement, whether it's in front of a business, or they've asked for additional space. So we're going to be getting that all put together, and I'll take a picture of it and send it to the council as well. You probably haven't noticed, but Lunch and Learns, we discontinued for the summer, it's just so busy. We'll resume those back in September, and I'll be looking for ideas. If any of you have ideas for what type of information or learning materials you may want to start that up. And that's all I have.
is that all you got?
That's all I have. Do you want more?
Public comments. Consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consider approval of a resolution amending the professional service agreement with HR Green to survey certain streets within the city limits of Bloomfield.
Yeah, so these two both were carried over from the last meeting where we didn't have the resolution for the amount that's over, and then also the next one is the resolution to cover the design fee for the additional streets. So basically, we just amended the verbiage from the last month's meeting. What was the question? If it was over the 25,000, we had that resolution, and then the fee for the additional. Survey and up to 60,000, about to see 60,000.
That's the 60,000.
Remember, we would go ahead and basically kind of do it, just had to change the verbiage for the 60,000 survey and that's that. And then that's the resolution for that, so over the 25,000 more.
Is this for the North Street?
This, yeah, basically, no, not North, yes, well, part of North Street and basically 10 blocks surrounding around the hospital there, you can see them all in that area there, so additional survey there. This is prepping for reconstruction projects. Some will be shelved, some will be, we're gonna talk more about that coming up, about some other projects after meeting today, but
This first one is just adding couples, more blocks.
right, a couple blocks, right, yeah, we added the thing with the streets, but.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Scott,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Jack,
Yeah.
Consider approval of a resolution amending the master agreement with HR Green to include design services for the proposed 2019 North Street paving improvements for a fee not to exceed 60,000. Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Darren,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes. Consider correction of typographical error in resolution number 2019-22, resolution establishing pay increases for the fiscal year 2020. There's typographical error again.
The title, it shows effective July 1st, 2020, as you can see at the beginning, although there's several references to effective July 1st of 2019 through the whereases and at the end, and now therefore be it resolved. The fiscal year 2020 wage and salary resolution effective July 1st, 2019 is approved by the Bloomfield City Council during its regular meeting. We're just looking to have confirmation of the council to approve the fixing of a typo.
From 2020 to 2019.
That's correct.
I'd like to see a whole new resolution.
I don't think that's necessary.
Well, there's stuff in this one that doesn't need to be in.
That's how we passed it. Just making the date 2019 instead of 2020.
So do we have, we don't even have an effective pay plan at the time then, right?
Sorry?
There isn't we don't have a pay plan at the time then, right?
I think the intention and understanding here is that this resolution has been approved and it's being effectuated, and we're actually working on payroll for the first effective July 1st right now that will be paid out next week.
Guess we have a motion to approve the change.
The motion would be, that was, I don't have the background. This resolution was passed.
Yeah.
So the motion would be to amend the part that's circled here, so it would be a motion to amend
The title.
the title. None of the operative provisions would be sought to be amended.
No.
So I make a motion, we correct the date to July 1st, 2019 instead of 2020 in this resolution.
Second. I have a question. On the third, I wouldn't say the second, but the third whereas, is that a concern? And we're talking about union stuff in here. And, I mean, it's in the same, should that be separate?
Well, so.
I agree with
problem
that,
is,
I'm not
it
arguing.
was passed.
I agree with that.
It really should not be in this, but it was already passed as is. Now they're just asking about a typographical.
So it won't be a legality issue.
It could be.
The whereas that's in there is just as an explanatory rationale for why the 2% is put in there. There is no functioning circumstance here of approving an ASME contract. All this is just showing the rationale behind putting 2% out there. There's no
Well, I
operative.
didn't give no one a raise, a 2% raise based off of union.
That's how we did this. That's how
But the
we
next
did.
line says that the ASME employment agreement is setting the standard for salary and wage increases for other employees. So it does affect the non-union pay plan by adding that in there.
Yeah, it is the rationale.
And this is the non-union pay plan. Why is the union stuff in it?
Because it's the rationale for why this council has always approved wage increases for non-union people. We've always kind of followed the lead of the wage negotiation. And of course, if you wanted to look at it in a broader context, you can see that there's a 1.75 across the board increase that the council's approved that is not a part of the non-union wage plan, or for that matter, the police department wage.
So it's not a concern.
I think it should have been separated, but it's already been passed. So this doesn't have anything to do with that. It's about changing a title.
That sort of gets to that answer gets to my question, which is the way I understand it, all we're talking about is amending the title.
Right, that's
And
it.
then, more important, I just want to kind of, because I wasn't here for the last meeting, so I just want to kind of understand. The issue is, the resolution is what it is, because it was passed. The issue is, do we change the title, or if we voted up, the title changed. If we voted down, the title stays the same, but the resolution is still there.
Right, which, I mean, and it's July 2019 is everywhere else on the document. Everything else is July 1st, 2019, we're all aware as, that's just the title. That's the title of the resolution. This is just making sure that you have a clean resolution, so you don't have the problem of,
What's the point of voting on it?
so that it's clear.
But you can't turn it down, it's not changing nothing.
You can turn it down, but all it's gonna do is, I mean, it's gonna be the same.
Right. You'd have to create a new resolution that was for this year.
That is just the title of the document. All you're doing is correcting it so it's clean. It literally says, so the only thing that's wrong is the title of the document. And that's the only thing that's wrong about the title is the year. So all the terms are still the same, and just be literally, you'd have a resolution that has a typographical error in it.
The way I read these is, I sort of ignore the title and all the whereas stuff, because that's all just storytelling. And maybe I'm wrong, but the operative part's the resolution, now therefore be it resolved, kind of the meat of it's at the end. And I think your point, the vote one way or the other, I see is sort of somewhat inconsequential. You're just changing the title or not changing it. So it's really just a matter of how we want title.
Well, we got a motion and a second.
Scott,
Sure. Yes.
Darren,
Yeah.
Jack,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Consider approval of housing incentive applications, parcel number 01110012, parcel number 01110021, and 01110022. This is two more applications for housing incentive houses. So that puts us at 9.
You have any questions?
I think Chris had a little bit of, he was what we're talking about here, did you, or
Do you want to
No, we can do
do
that later.
So motion to approve the two applications.
So moved.
Second.
Jack,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Consider approval of resolution authorizing the city administrator, city clerk to make the appropriate interfund transfers of sums and record the same in the appropriate manner for fiscal year 2020.
We were a little too assertive in doing our transfer resolutions as it relates to the property taxes that we would receive through the 27-cent emergency fund. Technically, we transferred about $19,000 of money that we haven't collected yet. So as we did at the end of last fiscal year, just last council meeting, we're going to reverse this transfer and then do it at the end of the year when we receive the property tax money related to that. Again, it's a small amount of money, but we do not want to carry inappropriately a transfer that creates a negative balance in that particular account.
And I think if you look at the very last page of the financial packet that I handed out, that is in a paper clip, it makes it real clear to see. It's titled the Treasurer's Report 7119, and I especially put this together so y'all can see what the June 30 balance was for each fund, the transfers that were in and out, the very, very last page. And then you could see what the resulting balance was for each fund after the transfer. And these transfers were what were approved with the passing of the fiscal year 20 budget. And I did do them on July 1. And so what you need to look at on this page is about 1, 2, 3, the fourth line down, fund number 119, emergency fund, taxes.
I lost my paper.
You lost your paper? Oh my goodness.
Very last page, clumsy, and I've been writing through the papers, making it better.
Are y'all looking at this one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is money we get in the form of property taxes each month. And then we transfer in June at the end of the fiscal year, the money that's accumulated in that fund into the general fund. yes, and I didn't catch it at the time we approved the budget. I certainly did, was quite glaring, when you see that fund balance as a negative, and we do not want negative fund balances. Y'all have worked really hard. So that's what we're asking.
Motion to approve.
Earl,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Darren.
Yeah. Consider approval of pay estimate number one to Lawson Construction in amount $162,127.20 for proposed water main and wastewater improvement Division 1 water main.
As probably noticed, they've been working already, so that we're almost done with Northland Drive. They're on Gregory Lane right now, getting ready to wrap that up and moving to East Street. And Matt Walker from French Renters here basically just certified that they've been working and the work's done. So if you got any questions, you see there, if you remember, French Renters doing the contract observation for the Division 1 water.
We've got about 1,050 feet of main installed so far on those two streets.
Can you, on these payout sheets, can they put what the total estimate was
For the
for the total project?
Yes, it's on the last sheet, there's a total right above stored materials.
Okay.
Yep, it's right in the middle where the signature sheet is. It's $534,709.
Okay, I found it now.
Yep. So that would be the Division 1. So there'd be a separate pay estimate for Division 2, which is the sewer.
I'd like to see put what the remaining balance is that's owed. I don't think that's on here, is it?
No, it wouldn't be. Because these contracts are unit based. It's not a lump sum project, so, because we don't exactly know what's in the ground. So we think it's gonna be 50 feet of sewer or water, and it might be 48 or maybe 52. So, I mean, we could add that to it just to give you an idea, if that would help.
I guess I got a calculator.
Am I reading this right at the bottom, then is the job about 87%?
No, so what they're allowed to do is they get all the material for the project right away. And the way the specs and the code is written, they can get reimbursed for those stockpiled materials. So we pay for those materials after they give us their invoices. And then as the project goes on, that gets deducted out. So that's why this first pay estimate seems a little higher.
98,000 of it's stored material for this first phase.
Correct, yep.
It's like a down payment. Motion to approve. Move to approve.
Matt,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Consider and request direction for East Street culvert project.
Basically, I put that on there to talk about, and we're at a halt with the culvert project, so just wanted to see, I guess, basically if we want to complete that and start moving forward with the bridge project. So basically, do we want to go to a bridge or we want to continue the culvert project?
I thought we had already decided we weren't gonna do the box culvert. We were gonna go with, but we'd already
Right,
talked about
so,
that.
so
We
we
never
have,
voted on it, we just
Okay,
discussed it, but we
Yeah.
were leaning toward the bridge.
right,
Wasn't
yeah, that's what I thought.
Last time I talked to Larry, they hadn't got anywhere with the bridge yet. Getting heard back from the structural.
I went down and looked at that
What I'm doing
one
right
that they're
now.
building now. Pretty simple. I didn't get to see much. I mean, they had a piling drove and wings put on it. And it looks to me like it would be a good fit for there to save us a lot of extra messing with the sewer, with the other pipes and stuff that's
Yeah.
there. I think it would.
And are we gonna be able to use the county's engineering thing and save us that way?
They're pretty much a cookie cutter plans, I mean.
Well, we're running
So-
it through HRG.
Right, so that's what my point is.
Looking at,
So,
I mean, we sent them a set of plans that we have used and.
I was there this morning.
Information to
Yeah.
make it easy, just waiting.
Yeah, so I was there with this morning with the bridge guys. The biggest thing is, so they can design it, so there's a DOT off-spec bridge, basically what you're talking about. So there's some DOT off-spec standard bridges that we can look at, and the option two of coming back with the bridge that Bloomfield Bridge and Culvert has too. So basically, with the direction of we can prepare plans and then, go forward with that and get engineer service agreement for the design work on that. Bottom line, whatever we build, we want to have PE sign off on, so we're gonna have to go with an engineer one way or another. HRG is our city engineer. So when you look at a bridge, basically take a square foot, so like it's a 30 by 30 bridge, take that times $100 a square foot, you look about $90,000. And with the design fee, you're looking at between 5 and 10% of that for design fee, so.
So we can get our refund.
Like a starting reform, yeah, 5 and 10%. So,
And then we
basically, you'd be looking at $90,000 bridge with,
Their costs. We need to know what we're getting refunded.
$5,000 or $15,000 design fee, so it just depends on where you wanna go, what you wanna do, so.
Heather, if we go this direction, which I think everybody is in agreement to, do we have to formally go through an abandonment of the project as far as the culvert is concerned and rebid? Or can we just substitute this without going through that process?
So there was an original project that was awarded to a contractor,
Yes.
and now instead of doing that project,
We're gonna not do a culvert, we're gonna do a bridge. And the reason for it is that the culvert is impractical and given the circumstances of the utilities that are.
There's sewer main in the way that's higher than the elevation of the culvert.
how much is the,
I think is my space, I think we have to do new projects, we'll have to do DNR approval to do for the water. So we're looking at doing some, also saving some engineer costs with HRG. Part of that is, we already have, we have a lot of flow study done, we have a lot of topograph done. The other hydraulics, so basically hydraulics been done, geotech's been done, but we don't know if it's deep enough because of pilings. Pilings will be different versus what they were doing for the culvert, so that'd be a question we have to look at. So all that stuff we need to get we can get pulled, from some from French Renter, some from Shy, pull that into HRG, see what data we have, and then see how much that change the design plan. So some of that data is gonna save help, but we're still gonna have to do a DNR permit request because of the flow and how it changed from pilings and stuff. So we can't change the flow of the.
Is a change, you're talking about not much in cost.
Right.
Well, I understand that.
As far as the flow, it'll actually be bigger.
Right, but we just, you have to do the DNR.
The point though that I'm asking here is that you have a very significantly different pipe structure.
What I
And
would-
should this be rebid?
what I would say is, my understanding is it's less. So you've already spent the money, so you're actually spending less. I would at least though put it on the agenda so it's clear that you are changing the project, so if anybody in the public wants to comment about it, they can come here, comment about it, and deal with it that way.
But we can,
As long as it's less, if it's more, you can.
but we can keep the contractor and change just change the form of structure.
Yeah,
Since it's less money,
yeah,
and
if it's,
keep the contractor we have.
yeah, if it's more money, you have to rebid it.
No.
Cause you've already talked about, I mean, the public has already known that you're gonna spend that much money on the project, now that it's not feasible, which is my understanding. I mean, you would have to do something else.
Right, we are changing the project. So we're just trying to figure out the process.
I would put it on the agenda, so that if anybody wants to come and hear why, wants to say what they want to say about the project, they can.
But we don't have to go through rebidding.
No, cause it's less.
All right,
If it becomes more, then yes.
okay. This will be less based upon engineering estimate, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So take this area, put it into the bridge, so it's 30 by 30 times about $100 square foot, about $90,000. concrete. So again, depending what size we go with. There'll be a little more cost for the guardrail, depending on if we do the post or Jersey barrier, or whatever we're gonna do for guardrail, but for that, we just have to come up with, that again, the option you.
But what was our quote on the culvert?
You come in at 273, what was it?
237.
239.
Yeah, I think
239.
our bid was in the 230s.
You're saying the engineer's estimate somewhere around 100?
Right, well, 30 by 30 bridge is, times $100 square foot, you're looking at $90,000. So,
Well, that's a little low.
little low, that's no guardrails, that's decking, but,
And
so.
that's no removal either.
Right, yeah.
But
We've got,
these
Right, that's
bridges,
just the build cost.
these bridges run, don't hold me to anything, 130.
So yes, Les?
yeah, it's less than
It's about 100,000 less.
Okay.
He's making it sound like a third, but I don't.
No, I'm just, there's more fees, like I said, the engineering fees, 5 to 10%, and again, the demolition, and you add it all up, like you say, but it's still way less than what we awarded.
Considerably less.
My
About all your
opinion, let's get moving on it. So,
Right.
Yeah, we need to get it done.
I agree, that's why I got it on the agenda, so we can talk about it and get it rolling, so.
So we need a
If you
motion.
get HR Green to hurry up, I can start in 2 weeks. If not, I'm gonna start another.
They were pulling some plans today, they've had your plans, so looking at those, so they're pulling those today.
My brother sent them basically a
Right.
set of plans you can go on in 2 weeks for a 28-foot wide. And the wings, you can pretty much set wherever you want. They're pretty much flexible. The only purpose of the wings is to keep the water from going around the back wall. You can set them straight back if you want to avoid utilities.
So we need we need a motion to change East Street Culvert Project to East Street Bridge Project and put it on the agenda at the next meeting for public comments.
Yeah, just voice vote for that direction.
Yeah, that's what.
so moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Consider approval to purchase new water truck service body for budget approval.
Right, that's, again, we allocated this for the budget to approve, so, you got the two estimates there in front of you. Okay, one was 17, and one was 19. So, again, these are the boxes. I do have some estimates on trucks. I didn't have it on the agenda yet, so next meeting, we'll have the truck on the agenda. I have 2 purchase prices for trucks, but I wanted to go with a leasing option too, to bring it to you to look at possible lease. The phone company gets, with their service body trucks that they buy, they usually get 3 to 4 trucks out of each service body, so that's why I end up looking at some options. So the cost of the body's $17,000 a pretty good body, but again, we're not gonna get maybe multiple trucks out of that body, so that's on there, so. Yeah, we'll go for that, and I'll bring the truck bids. And again, I won't purchase the body until we decide.
So the body will last longer than the truck, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
That's not true in my case.
Got it.
My body ran out long before my
Not
car.
the same kind of body, but this. So.
You talking trucks here or?
Oh, yeah.
Truck body.
It's a service body, different than not the same kind of truck
The
body.
way my back felt this morning, I'm pretty sure my body gave out long before the chassis.
Are we definitely sure we're getting a Ford?
No.
How's that on here?
We're just saying Ford, or just how it talks about the on-board truck or something.
Make Ford Model 350.
Oh, that's just, I think they have to put a truck in and quote the size or whatever. So it'll be compare size to that, but it won't be, it's not a Ford 350. That's gonna be one of the options. The other one could be a GM, then it could be a lease too. The Ford, they put that on it, the Ford truck is in stock, but the GM would be a 2020 model, and won't be till January before you get it if we buy it. I'll bring those out.
I'll get a leftover 19 cheaper.
Truck, yeah, if there's some around, there's not much.
Kirksville's got a pretty good deal on that now.
Price is gonna be about the same though, regardless of the.
For the truck?
Yeah.
Well, they're probably.
No, for the box.
Yeah, the box is the same, yeah, it's all trucks, the box is the same, no matter what truck it's on. This body, we pretty much matched the one service body we had for water. right now. And we did budget for this in the,
Because we budgeted for it, we gotta spend it. What kind of warranty do they have?
Just leave the door,
yeah. And
30 days
they're
out.
3 or 50, 3 feet or 50 sections.
But I mean, these bids are apples to apples.
Right. One's from Truck Equipment, one's from the company Tella. And the lead truck accessories. As much as I can, because I can't send the truck equipment bid to them, I had to, cut out a lot and just send it to them, match.
Do they need to order it? I mean, is there a reason why we approve this before we approve the truck?
Yeah, it'll need to be ordered, but I won't order it until, next week on the truck. So I basically had all the information on this one, so no information is gonna change. So I just want to have it approved, and then you'll have the truck one next month or next meeting. I plan on having both here, but I didn't get my leasing information in time, so.
Well, I think we're required to take the lower bid, right?
Yeah, once we know that there's like, some reason, yeah.
But you said they're apples to apples.
I recommend truck equipment.
Move to approve the bid from Truck Equipment of $17,903. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consider and discuss proposal to brace, gas meters from Coons Gas Measurement in the amount of $9,503.40.
So again, those are for gas meters. We went ahead and kind of reserved a pallet of gas meters, that'll be 60 that's on there. The price of those are going up, so they're right now $98 a piece. They're gonna go to about 112. So metals are going up. So this is what we'll replace for the year. So it's basically a year of stock, kind of like we did last month with the pole inventory for utility poles. This will be the gas meters we use for this year. We'll be working on a gas meter rotation plan.
Is this part of that?
Right, and the meters on hand to do proof and switch out.
But 60, I mean, don't we need to do 600?
No, we can't do them all at once, so yes, we'll be doing a plan, basically a rotational plan. Really, the lifespan of meters, 6 years, we're way past that. One of our meters been there in 1976.
I mean, we need like a 10-year rotation plan, do
Correct.
10% a year.
Correct. That's what we'll be doing, rotate those out, so. But we want to kind of secure these because, like I said, the prices are going up. So they called us, gave us a heads up, the prices are going, so. And we did budget for this too, so it's not out of budget. So. I just want to clarify, I'm not trying to spend any budget.
But if we're gonna have a rotation plan and they're gonna go up, it's gonna be $15 higher, why don't we have that plan so we can buy them now at the cheaper price?
Oh, we couldn't store 600 meters.
Well, 10% of how many?
And plus time, it's just,
10% is 660.
Well, we got 1,200 and some gas meters, right?
right, so.
So we need 240.
So we'll just, as we go, we can't work more than this a year. We can't do more 60. Switch out for the year, unless we contract it out.
Take you longer than 10 years to change it now.
We'll
That's a 20-year rotation
plan, we'll be okay, we gotta start somewhere. Just start.
Sounds like that's the money.
This may be a little off, so I'm sorry for taking us out of rabbit hole, but does the city, because of the way we buy the gas, are we losing money because of the outdated meters?
Yes.
So I guess my thought would be,
I think to what maybe what Dan was getting at.
It possibly might be worth taking a look at accelerating that plan, and maybe are there options to just bite the bullet and do a little bigger project and replace them earlier? Not just because of the cost of the meter, but if every year we're losing revenue, we might get some of that money back.
On that specialized one.
Right, and change 60 meters in a week.
So this is the residential meters. We also have rotary meters for businesses that are quite expensive. You know, we're talking over $5,000 a piece for some of those. So we've replaced one of those already this year. And also we're looking at, we have $90,000 set aside. We're looking at possibly 3 different road crossings for gas main. We're looking at so, and we're also doing a complete, kind of like we're doing the electrical side right now. We're looking at modeling our electrical system. We're looking at modeling the gas system. So that's, we're bringing that to the council here before long to approve for some engineer work based on that too. So this is just a phase to get with the meters to get in to get the price going. But I mean, we're looking at the whole thing, but there's a lot going on. You know, there's a lot on gas plate. 60 meters is enough to get us through the year to get that plan rolling. But trust me, there's a lot more to do in all utilities. I hate to bring it out, but yes, technically the older gas meter is more of the loss. But we also have other gas loss, you know, that are worse in other places. So. Yeah, so even if looking at the comprehensive plan, this is just a small piece.
Even if we found the money for it, there'd be a manpower issue.
Correct.
Correct. I think another thing about this too is there are more specialized meters is where we probably could focus effort and at the same time recognize probably better return on that investment. We know that some of the bigger meters is where we've seen some problems.
The $5,000
Buy 10,
ones.
get one free.
The residential ones, well, they're small volume comparatively speaking, and also they're not as problematic as you would find with some of the big ones. And of course, there's a lot fewer big ones.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
How much room are you talking for 60 meters of the store?
That's basically a
Third of this room.
Pallet.
a little over a pallet, probably, yeah. And we have that in the area there for gas.
We don't have enough room to stick a couple more pallets.
Well, and I'll also tell you too, we kind of spoke for 1 pallet. I don't know if we could get more at that price. They went fast and basically kind of already pre-bought, so, you know, it's, I don't think we can get any more at that price.
So you already made the decision.
Make the reservation.
Yeah, make your reservation. So, if they're gonna have a problem, let them go. If we let them go, they'll sell them no problem. So it's just, they're just trying to work with us.
Motion to approve.
How much did we find it for?
About 20,000 distribution supplies will be questioned.
I guess I'd make a motion to approve unless you can talk them out some more.
That's
Yeah, you can get another.
If we can
If you
approve
get another
up
pallet.
to a dollar amount, if we can get more, you know.
Again, that would kill our supply money. I need other supplies. I mean, we got,
I'm not saying spend the whole 20,
right, well, but
but you buy 10, you
We're,
get
we're
one.
doing about half right now of that budgeted line item. We have other things that we have to buy with that line item.
I mean, I got 2 rotary meters that I know that we could easily replace and that would take out the other half probably. So I mean,
If you need one, I can put a pipe in mine and you can come get it.
yours is one you need to replace.
I'll just put a pipe in there and you can come and use it somewhere else.
That's really kind of you.
Hey, I'm trying to help, all right?
And we're looking at, and that's the reason why we're trying to look at all these plans comprehensive and plan ahead, because there is, like I say, the revenue, we're trying to stop that gas loss, water loss, and the line loss for electric.
But maybe we're not planning ahead as much as you think if we didn't budget very much.
Okay, well, we planned for what we're gonna do, like I said, 90,000 for contract work in there. I planned ahead for the work I know that we could do, so it's just, once we do this, kinda like the electric, what we're trying to do on modeling that system, once we get the system modeled, once we get all the numbers done, trust me, there's a lot more, it's kinda like streets, we can only do $2 million, we know we need 20 million to do our streets, I mean, so it's a matter of getting a plan together to get to work the plan, so.
All right, move to approve purchase of gas meters.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consider and discuss proposal to brace 112 and 113 South Madison.
So you have your pictures there too, so Christopher Contracting gave us a quote, I reached out to them for us to get a quote to possibly brace that, so we could get that orange stuff off the sidewalk up there. So they gave a picture of how they would do it. The concern though is that, again, there's no PE stamp on here that would take the liability away, to say, put the liability back on them and not on us if that was still to collapse, because that's not still fixing the issue of the common wall.
Who's it put the liability on?
On us still. So it's not on them if they do this, because there's no professional engineer stamp on it saying this would keep it from falling on somebody in the sidewalk or the street.
Is that front wall load bearing or is it just a facade?
Just,
Yeah.
Facade.
So whatever that's anchored into, if the load bearing wall goes, that's all good, that'll rip right out.
Is it on the historical registry?
The whole square is in the district, yeah.
Is there any way they could run a cable to the back of the building to support it versus that angle brace to the?
They're agreeable with one.
So the way the engineer, if you don't mind.
no way.
So maybe I'll just draw it out just so that it's clear, right? Or I'll try.
But don't you see what I mean?
So you got the two buildings, right? Like this? So you're looking straight from the sidewalk at the buildings, and you got the common wall, and the common wall is failing down here, about 20 feet back. And so the way that the engineer that came in and did the review, he suggested that you basically build bracing on both sides of that common wall from the basement up to the roof to take the weight off the load-bearing wall, and then tie in the facade to that so that you keep it pulled back. And so when we got this estimate, we called him up and said, do you think this approach would work? And he basically said, and that's kind of what Daniel was referring to, is that's not his approach. It's not the approach that he would recommend. There are a lot of different ways to do things, but his recommendation is if you're gonna go a different direction than he recommended, that you have a PE sign off on it, so that, it's not your community development director making a recommendation that's gonna cause you some liability issues.
So it sounds like if we do this and we're gonna protect the city, we still have to keep the sidewalk barricaded.
So that, I don't think, I agree with that statement. I think if you do this and it's not in agreement with the recommendation from the engineer that we had review it, if you take the barricade down, I think you may have some issues.
And why did we have it even bid like this?
Well, so again, not knowing that the PE wouldn't sign it, they didn't have the PE to do it, so that's where, again, it's just checking, so we're not out anything to have them do it. The second thing is, why I got it on the council then, is just, this is what we've done. If we go back to what the engineer says, we're looking at that $300,000 to $400,000, right, or whatever, to fix this.
Well, we don't know what the temporary is. That to replace the wall and fix the facade was the estimate, but we haven't found anybody to date that is willing to come in and build that temporary shoring.
Right.
And the reason
Scare me too.
The reason Danny went to this group is because they've done work on buildings up in the Toma on the historical buildings, so it's been a challenge to find somebody that's willing to go in there and do this work.
So part of this too is like, what's the next step, or what direction you want us to go, or what are we doing? I guess
I thought our direction before was to get an estimate to shore up the building so it wouldn't fall down, and here we are with a pipe in the middle of the street.
Right.
We don't have any, that's what we was after.
So just know, so you know, Christner got this information, got the engineering report, and this is how they came back and recommended, this was their recommendation. It wasn't that we went to them and
His
said,
engineer?
he didn't have an engineer.
That's why,
That's why we checked with our
So
engineer.
you asked for that and you got this?
We asked for the recommendation, a bid to stabilize it, right?
he gave out his report, said,
I wouldn't have wasted our time. I wouldn't have wasted time.
Well, part of it also is, so you guys have consistently said, look, we're contractors, ask us for some guidance, right? We're struggling finding someone that's willing to do this and put together a solution. This is the only person so far that said, I have a solution. And we're saying it's not in keeping with the recommendations from the engineer. So we're asking for your help as contractors. What do you got?
I mean, there's no sense in doing anything if it's not gonna get signed off on to be safe to take down the orange fence.
Agreed.
Has there ever been a bid to take it down?
Has it ever been put out? I mean, has anybody ever wrote up a description of what needs done and sent out to contractors to get a bid?
We've had Renaissance Restoration took a look at it and came in and gave a bid to do the shoring and the work, which you've seen. Right? It was not just the shoring, but also, or I don't know if I'm even using the right word, but the stabilization, right? And to do the repairs. So we didn't, I mean, we haven't asked them to just.
So can they give us an estimate on just the temporary structural
We can,
that we can get signed off on?
we can do that.
Or see
Understand,
if
they're
they
from
would-
Galena, Illinois, and one of the things we've been encouraged to do is look locally. So we tried a local solution first.
Remind me, what was their estimate for
I'm
along?
I don't have that at the top of my head, but if my recollection is close to right, it was about 280,000 to repair the wall and about another 70,000 to repair the facade and do some historical restoration on the facade.
So that was just the mutual wall and the facade.
Yes, that doesn't,
The
it
rest of
doesn't,
the building.
right, it makes the building stable and structurally sound. It doesn't modernize it, do any, interior work or anything like that.
How much was that?
280.
I think it was 350, 380. I'll look it up while we're.
So in other words, there's nothing gonna get rid of that orange fence by RAGBRAI. In other words, just we'll put it back on the shelf.
The fence or
The idea of running into something.
I mean, the only other option, we've got some Amish contractors that move houses. If we've got a plan from the engineer firm that come down, don't they have a spec on what needs to be done and how it needs to be done to shore it up and
It's a narrative.
stabilize it?
It's a narrative, it's not the specs.
Can they not give us that if we need, somebody's gonna have to spec it for anybody to sign off on it, there will have to be a spec and it'll have to be built to some engineer's spec. So is it worth our time to get the spec to give out?
I think we could certainly ask them for that and get the design, basically.
Or get some more information on that to see if we have the spec, we're releasing the burden on them to have to pay an engineer to spec it for them so they can bid it. If we have that, it's hard to send something out for bid when you don't have a spec.
Sure.
That's why we got this.
Right. But the engineer's gonna pay for.
I understand the engineer's gonna want paid, but we're gonna have to pay the engineer at some point to do this anyhow. If we just, and any information we gather from him right now, we're spreading over more time and we're always gonna be able to use it to fix the buildings.
I heard someone ask about somewhere, about tearing down. Have we made a decision if we're gonna restore or replace? Is it, or is that still up?
That's, decision's not been made, no. Right now, we're in the process of trying to keep it from falling down.
Yeah.
So I didn't do too bad. The wall was 280,780 and the facade was 75. I don't have it broken down by the shoring, right? They didn't price it out, so I can't tell you what their estimate was just to shore the walls.
Because they would have to shore it, tear down the old and put in new and then take the shoring out.
Right.
That's laundry.
Wasn't there a rough estimate of 90 to tear them down?
That was just, yeah, that was me. I called a couple people and said, what would it take to tear them down? And it was around 90, and then, you know, that included, it was pretty rough estimate, I guess. It was, and then, you know, that didn't count like stabilizing the adjoining buildings.
This one's good.
So you know there's gonna be some expense there. A comparable thing was, when we did the wall over on the northern wall, Dolly Klein's place on the east side of the square, the northernmost building. That was about a $40,000 fix to seal that wall and keep it from deteriorating. So I don't know if that would translate here, but if it did, then you're looking at another $80,000 to seal and stabilize the walls, because they're interior walls, right? I mean, they're used to having, they don't have an exterior coating or whatever.
Firewall.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to talk about the money for a second? We have in the TIF account about $350,000 that's, could be used for anything related to TIF. We could advance fund it, put together a TIF project to pay ourselves back. The $350,000 is what's left over from 700 plus that we had for streetscape. And obviously, we're not doing streetscape, so that's some of the money that's left over. We also, from that TIF account previously in the budget this year, took $225 out of that account for the street lighting program. So there's your funding sources. There's a payback opportunity, but you know, you got to front the money if you're going to do it. We have the money to front.
Seems like you kind of have to decide first whether what you're gonna do with them, otherwise you're gonna waste the.
Does the 300 have the two, is that what the 220 or the 250 for lighting? Is that,
No.
so the 300 is already minus, that's left over after the 250 for lighting?
Yeah,
Look at
225, yes.
the very last sheet of the
Yep.
of the packet, that's where I pulled the number from, to show
The
that,
lighting's already been pulled out.
yeah, lighting is,
We've got a 10-year payback.
is Fund 329.
So we get.
I think the lighting estimate's really high too.
400, 450.
I think the budget for the lighting's high.
We pulled the number for the lighting based upon what we had for street.
I know, that's what I mean, I think that number's, it was an easy number and quick to pick, but I mean, and it's not bad to be over, but I'm just saying, I think there's some money, there'll be money left over from that.
But like I say, we got 350 right now, that's unaccounted or uncommitted, that's what it said. 356, I think it is.
356, 479, 83.
So
First of all, we need to make a decision on whether or not we're gonna fix the buildings, which we can discuss it. We can't make that decision, but we can discuss it. I mean, do we want to keep the buildings and put back as is? Do we want to tear them down, put a new facade on a new metal structure? Man, I think that requires some more estimates, but I mean, I think the estimates we had was basically close to the same either or.
Well, okay, so let's just say you've got, I mean, what's a new commercial structure gonna cost? It's in the neighborhood of what, $150? Does that sound right?
Commercial
Yeah.
costs
150 to build a house, so you're probably looking more at 2.25.
Okay, so even, let's do 200 for easy math, right? And you've got, it, on the light end, you've got 4,000 feet of space between the apartments and the retail, and that doesn't count the basements that you have there right now, so you got 4,000 times 200, 800,000, am I doing the math right? So that's a new structure,
Plus the demo.
plus the demo. But, I mean, it's complete, right? Versus you get 350 to get this current structure stabilized and the facade restored, you still have to do you still have to build them out inside and do, if you want upper story housing. I mean, that's, it's not a complete building. So, I think those are just very, very
We would
rough.
save $100 on building permits because we owe them ourselves.
I got a question, and I don't know. If you take those, you decide to tear those two buildings down, that third building only ain't gonna stay standing? That's what I'm worried about.
Well, you'd have to do it in a manner that,
I'm just asking here, because
I think if you went up there and tore them two buildings down without supporting that other one, you'd probably want to get in a hurry. I think it'd probably stand for a little while, but I mean,
I don't know, I'm just asking.
I don't know whether the conversation ever was, whether it's the third one, or whether anybody ever pursued anything.
Oh, of purchasing
Or a joint venture of some sort, or.
So there have been some conversations with private parties about what might happen there. And I think there are people out there that are interested. There's some local people that have a little bit of interest. This might be a project that could attract an outside developer if we put together the right plan and the right package.
Let's
We
put a
have,
for sale sign in the window. Probably still got one. Let's let somebody else do it. We don't need to be in the business of building.
I mean, we bought them to save them, but we can sell them and let a private individual or some kind of a group, an investment group or something, spend the money to fix them.
that may be, and you may want to go down that path, but you're going to have, my suspicion is that you're going to have a lot more luck finding that developer, that private entity, if they see a willing partner in the city.
I'm not saying not be a willing partner. What I'm saying is let's sell them and support somebody else and fix them. We're not a construction company. We got streets and all kinds of stuff we need to worry about fixing and taking care of. We got infrastructure that needs done. Instead of spending $1 million on a couple buildings on the square that's not worth it.
Okay, so for clarity, what I'm hearing is stop activity on the square with regards to those buildings, leave as is, and make it known that that they're for sale, and stop. Is there,
I kind of hear maybe somewhere in between that, which is kind of, there are developers who, if packaged right, would buy this and take it on. But I think there are opportunities for the city to, one, think about what do we want there? And maybe control our destiny a little bit without having to be to the end point, their point, without having to be builders. We can get, like, I know, for example, if you do residential in there, right, there's tax credits and there's federal home loan bank grants, that you can get, but the city has to be a partner in that in order to qualify for those. And there are people that specialize in that, that you could, and maybe what we're saying is that that's an option worth exploring, is instead of us fixing them, what do we want that to look like, and what kind of partners could we identify in the private sector where we could sell and package it that way, where the city is assisting them with the grants, and it's done in a way that it's done so they get tax credits, and then also so we can sort of control our destiny a little bit in terms of what's in there and what it looks like. Those, I don't know, those might be the discussions.
That's what I was trying to say. I
Right.
guess I don't know all the words. I'm not saying sell them and just let them do whatever.
Right.
We need to support whoever does it. We need to make stipulations to make it, the project end as we want it to end. But I think we can save ourselves a lot of money, or taxpayers' money, by supporting somebody and having them invest in with us.
We're not the developer.
We're not the developer, still keep the building, still not have a hole in the square. And save some of that money to help do other projects that will benefit more people.
And what we do with these buildings is gonna be a template for the future.
Well, yeah, I
We have
mean,
that issue going around the square.
that's another thing too. I mean, we need to set a standard, I guess, for what we expect in the future. I'm not saying I mean, we've got, like we said, we've got 350,000 TIF money. So I mean, I'm not saying we spend it all on one project, but I'm saying we've got money to financially support somebody or help them. I just think it would save us a lot of time and energy to let somebody else focus on them buildings and come to us with a plan, what will you help me do, versus us. I mean, we spent a lot of time on talking about these buildings, on what we're gonna do and when are we gonna do it. I mean, I think we need to let a developer or an investor take over the project and us just support him however we can.
You might have the right knowledge and context.
And I'm happy to talk to Chris and see if there's some people, I know of projects like this that have been done, and I know, like, for example, I haven't gotten into all the details, but I know, like, Federal Home Loan Bank had, I think, $20 million they basically by statute had to give away. You know, most all of it goes to the big MSAs. They try to give it out in the rural communities, but people just aren't aware of it. And so, but that that project has to partner with someone like the city or a nonprofit.
If I could help somebody get $1 million to fix that building, why wouldn't we?
I don't know, I think that.
I mean, if it was a 20/80, 30/70, I mean,
I think that money's available. Now, there's a timing issue, like, April, May is their time frame, so we'd have to do a lot of legwork before then, but I think that money's available.
Is that mainly in restoration or is it?
It can be anything, it can be restoration, it can be new construction. The requirements are very similar to your low income tax credits, where you just have to have a certain percentage of the housing that's devoted to people that are within certain percentages. I think it's the low to moderate income. But when I back of the envelope did, thinking about it in terms of the housing project, I mean, I think most of the people in our rental market will qualify. And there, you know, like in Des Moines, that's how most of the East Village was renovated. It wasn't Federal Home Loan Bank, but it was all low income tax credits. And you go into those buildings and you wouldn't know that it's low income because the first floor is all retail and the top floor is all office. And then in between, there's guys that have figured out how to hit those ratios to get those credits. And so there's just enough residential in there to hit those numbers, and you know, then they have finance guys that make all that work. But I'd be more than happy to sit down with Chris and try to. It's not gonna be done by Red though.
is that the direct, I mean, is everybody?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Is everybody good with that direction?
We've got the right terminology going here.
Yeah, I think. So, again, just for clarity, nothing's gonna change between now and right? We're gonna have the March minutes, you're gonna have, community's gonna just have to know that, and.
Just make it look nice.
Okay.
Let me see if we can put the ATM trailer in front of there.
Well, that actually might be a great idea.
That would be a good idea.
Actually, I think you could put the median trailer there in front of that camouflage, so she's got that mapped out, but this, just so you know, this is what, so there's many balls I'm juggling like everything else. These are some of the ones I'm trying to keep going and bring options to the table, so it's not like, you know, I didn't spec it out, but I gave them the information, we requested this, moved, and that's the reason why I got it on the agenda tonight, so we can then have more action, decide where we're going. You're gonna see another one here, next item or so, so I wanna keep it moving, I guess, so I'm just trying to get your, you know, give you ideas and options.
Mayor acknowledged receipt of the water supply sanitary survey report conducted by the DNR.
this every year, we do this report, basically it's an inspection for DNR on our water team. They did a great job, you can see the deficiencies there, it's pretty minor or anything, but it's one of the requirements, just as directed to the mayor, and he has to acknowledge receipt of it, so it's just on the agenda, acknowledge receipt of that, so. No action to take or nothing, just.
Mark called me just to fill me in kind of what, because he said he seen it, just to kind of fill me in on what it was and.
It's serious and
They just, Mark and Dean deserve a attaboy for getting, having such good numbers and keeping everything up in shape. We had they found no problems with anything. And I think it's every 3 years. So they were proud of the report, and I think we should be too, proud of them guys. Doing a good job. Consider request direction regarding Old Law Center.
Here's another one. So, we had it asbestos tested and mold, not too long ago when I did the other houses too, so I'll get those next month. But anyway, recommendation from the testing was to get basically 4 foot off the walls all the way around the basement floor and get that sheetrock and everything out of there, so that way it could the mold growing on upstairs. So I did receive an estimate for $1,621.49 to go in and remove 4 foot all the way around the bottom of that floor in there. So I just didn't know if that's something you want to do. We did not budget for this, so, but to keep the mold from growing upstairs. Again, no decision to be made what to do with that building.
Can we get another grant? DNR grant to remove it?
Perhaps. We can look into it. If council wants to get rid of the building, we can look into ways to finance it.
You said it was, what'd you say, $1,600 just to remove the?
To go around 4 foot. We still need to, gotta work on getting the water stops. I'm looking at maybe some sandbags or something. We gotta get that water stop from still flowing in the bottom back there, but, that's really the biggest issue, but at least give them a chance to get.
Can you put a light switch on the light in the garage? Where they park the hot rod? Evidently, there's no light switch on that light,
Right,
it's always on.
Right, that's a
I got
requirement.
some of them in my house. For a motion sensor or something on it so that the light automatically shuts off. Or make sure the lights are off when they leave. That works too sometimes.
That light's, it's part of the police officer thing. It used to be, that's called the Sally Port. Lights have to stay on, so that's just what it's.
Why?
It used to have to stay on. And then just
Yeah, it's a
switches to
PD
something
requirement.
else.
That's why there was no switch, because that's.
That's where they were bringing in and out the inmates.
I know I've been in.
Okay.
And the light goes on.
See if I can find a site contractor for secondary.
Well, we might look into doing something with that light.
Screw the bulbs out.
So, the larger question here is do we want to just try and stabilize this to stop the mold? I mean, $1,600 is, yeah, we can find it. I think the real point here is that we've got a damaged circumstance that is not being rectified, and in fact is more of a problem. Probably need to just stop it.
Here's my question. If we keep the building and do something with it, does it have to be gutted? Is there a reason why we would stop at just the bottom 4 foot? If it's steel studs, which it is, they're gonna be rusty, they're gonna be moldy, you're gonna have to replace the stud. Are we better off to just gut it? Why gut part of it now and part of it later? If it's gotta all come out, do we not just take it all out? Even if we tear it down, it's gotta all come out. So are we better off to just take it all out?
I think the question then is what is the intent of the use of the building? I know that there has been some discussion about it being officey. There's been some discussion, particularly led by you, Mayor, about just tearing it down. I don't know where we're at with this building, and perhaps that's a discussion that needs to be had as to what our intent is.
but no matter what we do with it, it's not set up, the way it's set up, it's not set up to accommodate anything that we're gonna do. So instead of taking the bottom 4 foot, why don't we just take all 8 foot? All the interior walls that, I mean, they all gonna have to come out at some point. So we're better off, we gotta rent a dumpster, so do we just rent a dumpster and just gut it? I mean, not the load bearing walls, but
No,
do we just gut it? We gotta gut it anyhow at some point, even if we tear it down and get rid of it, we gotta gut it, because
the
that's.
interior walls, yeah, I agree with you.
So why don't we just get a price on
Okay.
gut?
Do we drive a skid loader through?
Well, yeah, through the soundboard.
I think it's got brick walls inside of it.
Okay. I mean, does that make sense?
Yes. We'll get an estimate to do that.
Is that the direction you want, or?
That's good, good.
Consider adding Brenda Johnson, financial manager, to all city bank accounts.
Right now, I have to go get bank banks and Brenda can't, so Brenda wants to get bank banks.
Be able to get the bank statements and call the bank and be able to ask questions. Since I am not,
Not on the list right now.
right.
I guess my question is to what extent would that be? Is it just to call, get information?
And be able to pick up the bank statements.
Technically, I have to open bank statements right now, and then I just hand them to her.
So we're not asking for signature authority on checks. This is just. for
No,
tax accounting.
absolutely no signature authority. Just, yes, the bank has to follow their protocol, and right now I am not an authorized name to even pick up the bank statements.
They don't deliver.
No, that's not the point. I have to open them, she can't.
Well, I could open them up with
Well-
them. I can't pick them up at the bank.
Right, that's
They
right.
would need to call and say, Gary, is it okay,
Right.
or Sandy, is it okay to let, or to have the bank statements? Or should I see a question, maybe a transaction that I have a question about? The bank, I'm not an authorized name, so I can't call and ask.
Make the
Hey,
inquiry.
yeah.
It would be commensurate with the job that she's doing, obviously. And if it would be appropriate with the financial manager job description.
Nothing against it, but if we can get too many people involved when it comes to bank accounts.
Take my name off, I don't care.
I was just gonna ask, how many people are authorized right now?
There's 3 of us, Gary, we, and myself.
Oh, I don't know, what's everybody think?
I don't have any problem with it.
But it's also picking up some information anyway.
She's not able to sign checks,
That's what I
So-
thought, yeah.
so
That's a bigger.
it's just authorization to get information and pick up statements. That's what we're doing, right?
That's right.
Word to that effect?
Is there,
Just simple motion to.
I mean, mean, does it need to be all the accounts, or is there just certain ones that are more troublesome?
It would be all the accounts because we handle the statements every month.
I mean, I guess I don't see an issue with somebody coming and asking you. I mean, then you know, then everybody's aware that something's going on with that account.
And for that detail, I would refer them to Brenda.
But if she has a question, I don't see the issue with her coming to you to get the information, and then you're aware, because you're the clerk, it's really your job to do this, so I think you should be involved.
And she consults with me on a very regular basis. The point being is that this is just work that's done in a matter of course.
Motion?
I move we add Brenda Johnson, financial manager, to all the city bank accounts.
Second.
You guys, if you guys wanted to just clarify what your motion is as far as what she's allowed to do, you could also do that. Just so it's clear what she's able to do.
I can,
And
Extract information.
the bank needs to see in writing, in the minutes, what is approved to do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why they said we can't do any of that now. It should we see it in the minutes that you are approved. So, yeah, you could be very specific on exactly what I,
So say what should be done. Very specifically.
I would like to be able to pick up the bank statements, especially at one bank, we have probably, we have.
We're talking about all accounts, so let's just make this
Yes,
broad. Let's
okay.
don't point anything out.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, I'd like the.
So you want to be able to pick up all the bank accounts, call and get information. You're not signing nothing.
No,
You just want to be able to go to the bank, get the account, the statements, and to call and ask if you have a question about a specific transaction.
yes.
that's what I want my motion to say.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll second it. So.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consider approval of DCDC funding request for July through September 2019 in the amount of $37.50.
Move to approve.
Darren did mention at their last meeting that he needs to show up once in a while and kind of give us updates on what's going on and what they're doing, because
I don't know whether I mentioned that they were on the 2nd or 4th this month, but I told them we'd like to have an update since we partially fund a little bit.
I don't mind funding, but I think we need to have a little bit of report.
I'll
once in a while.
remind you.
I think that's a fair point. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discuss and give direction for the next section of employee handbook.
This is the next to last section. This is a small section compared to some of the work that we've already done. It's about 6.5 pages plus 2 appendices. This is rather self-explanatory, but I do want to say that please understand that some of the things in here may be in conflict with the AFSCME contract, and as we've already stipulated in other sections of the handbook, the AFSCME contract would supersede any direction that's in this personnel manual. And if the AFSCME contract changes, then this may very well match that, or we may very well have to make some adjustments to the personnel manual in this regard. But generally speaking, there's a lot of things that are overlap with the current practice. Hours of work are obvious. There's no change there from the standpoint of the weekly cycle. And that employees work 40 hours on that cycle. Reporting for work, break periods, those things are standard and already in place. Overtime, generally employees will work 40 hours per week during their particular work cycle, and all hours for compensation is paid and shall be counted to determine whether the employee is entitled to overtime. Effectively, what we're saying here is that for non-union employees that are eligible for overtime, that they work 40 hours in a week before they have to receive overtime. Assignments, this is pretty standard stuff, assignments of overtime in advance by the department of designated supervisor. Compensation for overtime is 1.5 times the hourly rate. I believe that is even federal law. Comp time, at the request of the non-exempt employees, the supervisor may provide in lieu of cash payment, OT, and that overtime is converted into comp time, it's converted into time and a half. Non-exempt employees may accumulate a maximum of 40 hours of comp time. All comp time will be paid out in the last payroll of the fiscal year after an employee's first year of employment. Non-exempt employees can accumulate no more than 40 hours. We could very well put in here a caveat that says 20 hours can be carried over into the next fiscal year. It's something that is a discussion that perhaps comes with the AFSCME contract. 3%. Positions ineligible for overtime compensation, employees exempt from FLSA are not eligible for OT. That's standard. Minimum callback, 2 hours overtime rate for a callback. Overtime increments, we're talking about rounding to the nearest quarter hour. Classification, this is where we get into the process of acknowledging the pay plans. We talk about the composition of the plans and how they're put together. We talked about this before. The titles in these plans shall be used in all personnel, budget appropriation, and financial records. Specifications, uses of the plan. To prepare public announcements and vacancies, a guide in preparing examinations that will measure qualifications, determining lines of promotion, preparing personal service items and department budgets, determining salaries of various types of work, and providing uniform terminology understandable to all people as they relate to dealing with the pay plans. Administration of the plan is maintained by the city, is established by the council, maintained by the administrator. When circumstances warrant, the classification of a particular position or class positions may be amended by the city administrator with the approval of the city council. Coverage, there are actually 2 pay plans that we've acknowledged here. The maintenance of the plan is done by the administrator and the department heads as far as it relates to work conditions and employees working in these particular classifications. Classifications of new positions, city administrator will be responsible for the allocation of new positions to the existing classes or new classes, and that's always based upon what the job descriptions are, so that would come actually after approval of the city council. And then there's a discussion of the pay plan itself. To provide equal pay for positions of relatively equal complexity and responsibility. It is to provide salary ranges which are necessarily comparable to those paid by other governmental jurisdictions and private industry. And to simplify and facilitate payroll administration and budgeting as it relates to personnel administration. Composition of the plan shall include standard salary ranges with minimum and maximum rates of pay in the salary ranges. Make reference in the composition to look at the appendices. Development and maintenance, city administrator shall be responsible for development, review, and maintenance of the plan subject to city council approval. The factors establishing these pay ranges is based upon knowledge, skills, ability required to do the work, the nature of the degree of supervision received, the nature of the supervision exercise, and any special work conditions. From time to time, the city administrator may recommend changes of the assignment of salary ranges, subject to city council approval. Starting dates, we just talked about how you enter into the plan upon hire.
Back up a minute here to the
Okay.
classification of new positions.
Mhm.
That needs to be with the approval of the city council.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that.
I'm trying to scroll back here.
Before,
Oh, okay. City administrator shall be responsible for the allocation of new positions, existing classes, or new classes of position in the city. I agree with you, Mayor. It doesn't say that, but you have to approve the job descriptions to begin with, and that includes that
Let's just write it
classification.
right in there.
All right, put it in there. Development and maintenance of the plan. And we're going over that. Talked about how assignments are made. Salary increases within the salary range, but one step to the next higher step shall be made every 12 months from the anniversary date of the employee assuming his or her current position based upon recommendation of the department and approved by the city administrator. Salary increases of more than one step or more frequently specified may be made by the city administrator on the basis of recommendations of the department head, including detailed written statements.
Let's go back to the salary increases. So our budget does salaries from July 1 to June 30th.
Correct.
So if you have an anniversary date, so everybody gets a raise on July 1.
Yes, as far as a COLA, yes.
Okay. So if we use, so just use DPW for example. At July 1, he only got 2% of what he's currently making, and he has to wait till his anniversary date to get the 3% step.
That's correct.
So if they start a month before, okay, I get.
Okay.
So if they start in August.
Yeah.
They're full, they don't get, I mean, they get a raise in July 1 of the
2%.
of the COLA.
Yeah.
And then in August at their anniversary date, they get
The step increase.
step increase. Or June, vice versa. You
Whatever.
could get a raise the last day of June and the first day of July, depending on your hire date.
Right.
And they only get the step increase if it's recommended by the department head and approved by the city administrator, right?
Yeah, it's based upon performance evaluation and it's step.
So you can get. So is that worded to where they could get more than one step?
If extraordinary circumstances merited, that they cannot exceed the salary range.
I think that needs to have council approval then too. We can't have just one person deciding who's getting how many raises. We can't take a guy from first year to third year in 1 year just because one person thinks that it's necessary without council.
but they'd have to have a reason for it.
Well, I understand that, but he don't have to share it with us and we don't have any say in it. He can just tell us at the next meeting, say, this guy deserved a 3 to be moved to the top of the scale, and so I done it. We can't do anything about it.
Well, if you wanna, you could always add, I think you're talking about salary increases more than one step, that's what you're looking at. You could just always add subject, just like you did every other one, subject to the approval by the city council.
That's what I'm saying. I think a lot of this stuff probably needs to have council insight. That whole salary increase, if any of it that mentions more than what we agree to in here, we need to approve it. If it's different than this, it needs to be approved by the city council.
I read it like the step increases are like the bell curve. So you take out your A+ students and your F students. So on the one end, if it's an extraordinary person that deserves to jump a step, and I think that's fair that council would approve that. And I think on the other end, I think this is assumed in what we're saying, that in that first bullet point, that it has to be approved by the city administrator. But I'd personally like to see it specified in there that you're not eligible for a step increase if you're on a performance improvement plan or subject to any disciplinary measures, just so it's clear that when the council proves this, that it's clear that the expectation is that that's your normal raise for your normal employee. If you're below the curve, you're not getting it. If you're above the curve, it comes back to the council. And I think that also gives some cover, frankly, to the administrative staff, because then if someone raises an issue about equal pay or whatever, there's some cover because it's been presented to the council and the council's approved it.
I mean, we as a council give approval through the resolution of this.
Yep.
This is overriding this. Without council approval, we have to approve this, but this is overriding this with one person having the authority to do it. And I do not agree with that. If we have to approve any pay raise, it has to be done. The council has to.
So what you're saying
approve
is,
it.
what you're saying is if they're getting more
If
of
it's
a raise.
different than this, it
Yeah.
needs to be council approved because we approved
That
this.
makes sense.
If it's different than this, we need to approve it also.
That's
Does
fair.
that not make sense?
That's fair.
I agree with that.
Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, salary increases and decreases resulting from the adjustment of pay range is in accordance with the development and maintenance section of this pay plan and shall not prevent within range increases according to the salary increase section. What this says to me is that anything beyond the normal thing, we can probably just take this out, this bullet point out then. Is that my understanding from you all? Then finally, cost of living adjustments are made to the entire plan by the authority of council during the annual budget meeting process. All right.
What about, back to the, back to the compensation where we got the second page after the compensation heading. So it's saying that they're guaranteed a 3% to the top scale every year. Is that kind of contradicting the salary increases that they're discretionary based on performance?
Basically, what he's got in here is saying that the pay plan, if you're on like the STEP program, this says that no matter wherever you start, you automatically get 3% increase each year. But if that doesn't put anything performance based.
No, that's why I don't like it.
Well, I said that based, the circumstance here is based upon a satisfactory evaluation. I think if we're looking at this from the standpoint of how you advance through the three steps to the top scale, if we're going to look at something more superior or less superior that would say either freeze or you go down or you go up more than just the regular step, then all of a sudden, you've already said that the city administrator can't do that. So where we're at right now is a satisfactory evaluation that allows them to go to the next step. That's the standard that we have with this pay plan and the standard that we have with all pay plans in the city as it is established right now.
I think that should read with each step increasing by no less than the COLA. Benefits, if it's, because everybody basically gets cost of living. And that way, if it's performance-based, you can make that number 3%, you can make that number 6%.
No, you've already said that it effectively what's gonna happen is that people advance through the stages of their pay range at the steps that have been identified on an annual basis and only one step at a time.
So does that paragraph even need to be there?
As far as composition is concerned?
Yeah.
Absolutely, because that's how you determine what the pay ranges are, as you can see them in the pay plan. It also establishes the fact that there's a non-union in this part of the pay plan, and that the plans are adjusted annually with the budget making process by cost of living. Those things are all true statements that are already in practice.
Then what's the 3? So he's asked, what he's talking about is the 3%.
The step increases is what you're saying?
Yeah, the 4-step plan is ranging, it's a 3% step.
Yes, it is.
Okay, but
Cause I thought
you have another one that says it's performance-based, so you're guaranteeing them 3% plus you're guaranteeing cost of living. That's why I'm saying, if this is establishing a benchmark, what this is, I think that should be cost of living and leave the 3% out, because if it's performance-based, then you can change it however you want. And I mean, we're establishing the pay plan, and if we want to establish it at 3%, but we're not up to 3%, but this guarantees it 3%.
up to, maybe it should say a max of.
It says approximately 3%.
Well, the reason why I
That
said.
goes back into how you guarantee it.
Let me just say what approximately means in this regard. It's not 3.00%, there's some rounding errors here, that might be 3.001 or 2.999. That's why I'm saying approximately. The steps are actually what are the defining movement. As far as advancement is concerned, from what I'm understanding here is that if there's a determination by administration that a person has performed satisfactorily, then they go up that step. That and that only. That's what I'm hearing from you all.
So is it 3% or nothing then? I mean, if it's performance based, is it 3% or you get nothing?
It's either a pass fail.
Well, you also are.
That's the way I'm reading
I think
it.
the council needs to be involved in everybody's increases in money. There ain't one guy that needs to make that decision.
Let me just also say that you all recognize that there is not going to be a freeze, for instance, if somebody didn't perform. You know, what we have to do then is not deal with it from a pay standpoint and talk about it from a completely different perspective as far as disciplinary action or something of that sort. We're not gonna use pay as that kind of
Who
leverage.
established that?
That's what you said in a prior meeting.
I said what?
Mayor, can I ask, what is it that you want? And I'm
You
not
just
saying
said
that you're reflecting the council, I'm just trying to figure out what you want.
You just said that we said that we wasn't gonna use no pay increase as punishment. Where did that come from?
That's what you indicated in a prior meeting.
I personally, or we talked about it?
I think maybe I'm hearing him incorrectly, but I think what he's saying is he wants there to be some flexibility so that if somebody does, he wants there to be a number where there's a max, but also if he wants to go less than the max, the city council can do that if they want to, upon recommendation of the city administrator and the department head. Is that?
I guess here's what I don't think this handbook should guarantee anybody any more of a raise than cost of living.
Well, that is not the plan that has been approved by the council to date.
I understand this is the plan that we approved. And we could give more, but what I'm saying is, as this is a base. This isn't, we don't use this to guarantee things. This is a base establishment, so
How would
anybody that comes to work here knows that they're gonna get at least a cost of living increase. If
How
we
would you
wanna do
give-
more, we can do more.
How would you give more?
We can give however much we want.
So you don't want to do the pay plan then?
I don't like the pay plan, no.
No,
I'm just saying-
I'm saying that is the result of what your comment, and the council has already approved the pay plan as it's established, so you can't undo something that's already been established.
Well, I wish I'd have vetoed that. Myself every day.
I just read this paragraph and I feel like I'm being evaluated and then, but I'm guaranteed 3% every year.
If you have satisfactory performance.
That's the part that I think that's missing from being.
And I think that the question here is that if you have something other than satisfactory performance, what latitude do I have to administrate this plan?
Say that again.
If performance is either great or less than satisfactory, I do not right now, based upon the directions I'm hearing from you all, is that I don't have any latitude to make those adjustments as far as the administration of this plan is concerned. You pretty much have said it's going to be a satisfactory review, and as a result, that's what you're going to get, is the step increase. And understand, we're talking about 3 steps, 3% apart.
This says 4 steps.
It's the entry level and then 3 steps.
That's 4.
So
3 incremental increases.
I guess the way I would look at it is, I kind of would expect to see if someone is, however you define it, has this, and I think this is what you were saying is, if someone doesn't have satisfactory performance, so they've been on a performance improvement plan, they've not been rated satisfactory. I think the council would expect, I would expect to, if they got a raise, I'd expect it to come to us with the recommendation. So I think it's not that there's no discretion, but that those are the kind of things that, which I think would probably be the exception. Just like on the other end, someone getting more than 1 step would be an exception. And I think if you specify that in here and say, we were talking about, or if you specify in there that if you're, however you define it, if it's not satisfactory, then you're not guaranteed the step increase. Then I think that, to me, as I listen, I think that takes care of 90% of a lot of the concerns, because then every year when the council approves through the budgeting process, then you're approving the raises for the bell curve of the employees, for the bulk of the employees. And then you're separating out the ones, and at the end of the day, I think it shakes out about the same, because the reality is your people in the bell curve, the employees, however you handle it, they're gonna get about that step increase anyway.
The fact of the matter is that if you look at this, and we're not talking about a massive workforce here, we're talking about 6 people. As far as the non-union is concerned, as far as the police department is concerned, you're talking 5 people. Actually 4 of them in the officer category, so you're only talking about 2 job classes, if you will. Because the police chief, while he was recognized in the plan as far as his placement is concerned, the police chief's actual compensation has to be determined by the council.
Can you put in specific things to say, you may not skip a step, unless the city administrator recommends it and the city council approves it?
Yeah, that I think you put in already.
Yeah, and I understand that. I think the question is what happens if I want to say, I don't think you should have a step increase?
Well, that's my second point that you put in, is that the people, that you put something in that says, that you may not move forward in this step if you do not have satisfactory performance, because I don't really see that spelled out in here.
Okay, my point was, does it need to be an automatic 3, or should you be able to go with a 1 or a 2?
Absolutely.
And so if you change it from approximately to up to, And that gives you and the city council
And up to.
some discretion
3%.
to move
You know,
around.
maybe they do deserve
Okay.
a raise, but maybe it shouldn't be a 3%.
Right. But see, we're not involved in the evaluation process.
That's right.
So then we still got one guy determining what somebody gets.
Well, he'd be giving a recommendation, and you could always ask him why he's making the recommendation he's making.
I am the one that has to supervise the management of this
But
organization.
we work with them also. I think we should be involved in the evaluation process.
I disagree because that
I
is
know
not
you
according,
disagree, but
that
we
is
don't
not
agree on
according to,
that.
that is not according to the ordinance.
We don't agree on
We're-
that. We'll have to
City
change that
council
ordinance.
is supposed to be here to set policy, not in the everyday operation of the business.
And again, if city council wanted to make that clear, that they would have to go, city administrator would have to come and tell you why they wanna do the recommendation, you could put that in the ordinance.
So Heather, you kind of hit the nail on the head what I was thinking.
Mhm.
Is there any way to reword that where it makes sense?
This is,
And I think that-
this is policy here, so.
And I mean, I
It's
think we
not
gotta think
law.
about not just here and now that, I mean, this handbook should be within the
Good for
city for a
years.
long time.
Well, that's why I
Let's
don't
get it
like,
covered.
I think you just make it really simple, you just put those simple statements in so people know what it says, I mean, as opposed to,
I just don't like the rubber stamp of 3%, regardless of your performance.
right, cause then people don't have,
No desire to.
Yep, that should be, like that, I agree, I think that should be pegged to the performance. If we're gonna set a number, it should be pegged to a performance expectation. And anything above that, there's latitude, but it requires the council's approval. Anything below that, there's latitude, but it requires the council's approval. And I think that's, to me, that kind of makes sense. If you're, that way we're kind of clear on what we're approving.
Is that direction from council then?
I'd agree.
Can I have a vote just because this is a sensitive issue? I want to make sure that we are all in agreement or we have an understanding of agreement.
We can't vote on it.
just to discuss and give direction.
And we have everybody tell me whether you're voting for a time. Kathy said yes, Jack said yes, Earl said yes.
That's a vote. We're not voting on it.
All right, I'm just gonna do it then,
Well,
that way.
you you want to follow the ordinances.
Dan, I'm not arguing this point. I'm just gonna do it because I'm trying to get as expressed direction as possible. I'm not looking at trying to make some sort of issue here. I'm trying to just get clarification. Now, if that is what we're gonna do, then that's what we're gonna do. Does anybody disagree? Okay. Then we'll fix that. Anything else?
So I noted something. I guess I'll kind of start, this is my first read through this, and I thought it showed a lot of work and thought, which I personally appreciated. I did notice in this, and then it was raised earlier in the meeting, and then in some of the other personnel manual, some of the typos. And I do think it'd be worth, the stuff that's gonna live for a long time, I think it'd be worth another set of eyes to make sure that it's.
Well, there's no question that that's gonna be the case. I mean, we're just trying to get through the substance right now.
Yeah, but that's just, and again, it's sort of, in a sense, it's form over substance, because I wouldn't want it to overshadow the quality and substantive work that's in there.
There's gonna have to be more to it than just what we're doing here tonight. There's no question about that.
That was the only.
Direct deposit. Do we still hand out paper checks?
We only do to 2 people. And they're grandfathered because state law says you gotta do it from 2000, since 2005.
So then can you change that can you change that from anything after to if forced to
It's
participate?
state law.
No, I know, you said they're grandfathered prior to 2005, but then this says anything of that shall participate. I know normally direct deposit saves the city money.
Well, the point that we're making here is that we're notifying people who come into our organization that that's how it's gonna be. Again, the only people that we do not have direct deposit going on is two people that started employment before 2005. State law requires this. We're just.
No, I understand that.
We're just notifying the folks.
Still got shall though.
Shall means they have to because it's state law.
Okay, all right, maybe I misinterpreted shall then. Okay. Yeah.
Is there anything else? I will make a comment about what's left, and that is really issues related to the benefit structure. And I have a question as to whether you want to put this together and incorporate it into the plan right now, or wait until we get resolution on the reopener with the ASME contract. I can go ahead and put together a framework for it. It could change depending on what happens with the decision-making on the negotiation reopener. To give you an example, we talked about how holidays are paid for. But the next section would have what are the holidays. The next section would have what the vacation schedule is. The next section would have, a description of generally what the health insurance programming is. It's those kinds of things. Those are the kinds of things that we also are engaging with ASME about right now. And in fact, I finally received from Gayla today her comments about the last round of items regarding the negotiations proposals that we worked out in closed session. So there's a few notes that need to be incorporated into that. But otherwise, I can put together something for the next meeting to finish this off as far as its first full draft and approval is concerned, or I can wait until we get the ASME thing done. Which, however you want to do this.
It might be helpful, I mean, because instead of you preparing the framework and then sending it to Gayla and then Gayla having to send back changes, it might help when you get a draft that you think you're ready to send to the council, it might help to send it to Gayla.
Well, I'm asking first whether we even want to make that motion because we're still trying to deal with the ASME negotiation, for which that is an overlap of this.
I think I better wait to see what that draft is.
Yeah.
You think?
I think so.
That's what I'm asking.
I got one more question on this.
All right.
Termination pay.
Yes, sir.
Don't now, it says includes pay for work performed to the last hour worked and comp time allowance. Don't they get so many hours of sick pay? If they've got like 400 hours of sick pay built up, don't they get paid for that also? Or do you take that away if they're terminated?
Depends on how you want to deal with it. It's a longevity benefit and the sick pay compensation is.
Did you forget to mention to us that you took it out or?
I'm asking.
Does it not work? I mean, like something that.
I have worked in organizations that say if you don't go out on good terms, you don't get it. Do you want to have it in?
I think I would probably have it in there, the 400 hours or whatever that, I mean, cause if you got somebody that's been here 20 years and they've worked towards that and built it up and okay, so they make a mistake and they get terminated, you still can't punish them for the last 20 years.
That's your choice.
Doesn't mean you could be paying, I mean, you could be paying somebody for a lot of sick time.
We do it, I mean, we do now.
But we don't terminate people. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of what you would consider to be fair in this organization. Do you want to give somebody that benefit if in fact they don't leave on good graces?
So if we go to the extreme, you just think about kind of the public perception. If we go to the extreme and someone is terminated for, pick something pretty egregious, stealing money from the city. They're terminated for stealing water, getting added to the bank account and stealing money from the city. If they're terminated for that, then how's that perceived if we're then paying? I think that's the thing to think about. And then I guess the question I would have is, because I'm a novice, does the council have to approve terminations? Is that a recommendation that comes to the council?
Council has to approve terminations of those they contract with, which means it's me, the police chief, and then because the police department reports directly to the city council, anybody related to police.
Okay.
So the council only can terminate his position in the police department.
Why don't we just put in there, sick pay will be determined by the council? I agree with Matt, I mean, somebody
You
goes
need to
in.
have a policy, you can't just leave it open like that. I think you need to say yes or no. You want to do it or not?
Why?
Because I think that if you're going to have a termination policy,
So a guy goes in and steals money,
right?
but our policy is you pay him out.
Well,
And the next guy just, I mean,
If
he
you're
screws
going-
up and runs over a stop sign, and well, we gotta let you go, because
Why would you do that?
I just, as an example, Gary, right?
I think that you have to recognize the level of concern about termination. You have to do it very, very carefully, because you could be opening yourself up for a whole lot of liability. To be honest with you, in a practical sense, I don't think any city administrator would do a termination without a consult with the city council and the city attorney, because of the legal ramifications thereof.
We're talking about sick pay, we're not talking about terminating the guy.
Well, but I
We've
think,
already terminated him, are we gonna pay him for his sick pay or not? That's
But
what we're talking about.
I think what he's trying to say is that it's unlikely that somebody's gonna be terminated except for very egregious circumstances.
Right.
So then do you really wanna pay somebody sick pay, or should the city really pay somebody for sick pay? That's a policy, and that's a decision you guys have to make, but I think that's what he's saying.
I have no problem with leaving it out if the council has some input on whether or not the person should be terminated.
Define input.
As we vote on it, or we discuss it and have say.
That is not a part of the ordinance.
We can change the ordinance.
Then change it.
Well, I mean, do we need to do that? That's what I'm saying.
Yes, you do.
So one, I don't know if you want to get this detailed, but one sort of middle ground is you separate out, like you do in employment agreements, termination for cause.
Then you can negotiate it.
Yeah, and then you basically define for it's still employment at will, you can still be fired, but you separate out, and I'm just throwing this out, you would separate out in that case poor performance from misbehavior. And you could separate out, if you're terminated for commission of crime, for fraud, for theft, then you're in the naughty category, and all you get is, you get just what law requires, payment through the last minute you work. If you leave for good reason, meaning you quit for good reason, or you get notice, you leave on good terms, whether we terminate you for just run-of-the-mill performance, or you leave to go pursue something else, then you get your sick leave. I mean,
If they
structure like that.
If they quit for a different job, do they get their sick pay then at that?
Absolutely. If they give their 2 weeks, right? Is that the way I read it? If they give their 2 weeks, they get.
Is that in here?
I thought it was. Well, maybe it was an eligibility for rehire. I thought I read that.
I think that we actually talked about
I think it's in prior chapter.
prior chapter, I think. I'd have to check that, but that would be the intent.
I think that's, maybe if we change the structure of this, I don't know what you guys think, but if we change the structure of it so you break it out and that, we break it out in that way.
I guess, in my opinion, hours of work and pay, if that portion is in a different, if the portion of you resigning to take a different job, you get that, this termination part should be in that same chapter. It shouldn't be in hours of pay, because this just has to do with, this doesn't have to do with any punishment, this just has to do with compensation for working.
Which,
This termination pay thing should be under whatever part that they others, just under termination. Like if you quit, if you resign or quit, you get this, and this, you don't get this, and this. This termination pay should be right in that same line of category with that. Because it has to deal with the same thing. That termination pay has nothing to do with hours worked.
well, it's hours worked and pay.
So then you could also move, instead of, you could also move the sick pay over to this section. I think you just need to be in the same section, right?
I don't know that this belongs, layoff really doesn't belong here either. That belongs with
With what?
whatever this is just hours worked and pay. So if you work an hour, you get paid for this. If you have,
This is
That's
how
what
you
that
get
is.
paid, this is how you get paid inclusive of
well, then the
how you
part,
get paid at the end of your work.
okay, so then if you quit, that needs to be in this portion too then. Because that's hours worked and paid. It's no different than being terminated. If you quit your job, what do you get? Do you understand?
I understand what you're saying, I understand what you're saying in that payout information, if you will, is gonna be in that last.
But it
section.
should
So
be
you
in the
want
same
that-
category.
Do you want that, well, you want that moved into the next category? I mean,
Anything that has to do with work and pay, whether you get fired, you quit, or you work, I think should be under work and pay if that's.
well, that's kind of what is here, and what's in the last section is just describes benefits. Now, are you talking about this should be treated like a benefit, or are you just talking about, because this is just talking about what happens when you're paid and when you're not paid.
And if you
And
quit,
this is,
if you quit, you're not paid.
and how your termination pay occurs. I mean, we can move it to another section, I mean, it,
But this termination, this pay is terminate, like you getting fired, right?
that's correct.
Okay, so then the other pay has termination pay as if you quit, should be in the same category.
He wants a category that says end of employment, A, quit, B, termination.
So I'll add to that maybe is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it all needs to be,
All right.
if getting fired belongs here, so does quitting, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
All right, yeah. I get it. We'll put that.
Because layoffs here too, so that's the only other option, you either get fired, quit, or you get laid off. You're done. Or you work, and that's the whole first three things.
Or you die on the job.
I mean, you'll see.
What do you get then?
The intent is like, for instance, with the sick leave payout situation. That's a benefit. That's why it would be in the next section. That's the only reason why it's not categorized here. I mean, the point being is that the benefit structures are all in the affirmative.
I guess if it belongs in more than one section, it can be in more than one section.
I don't want to reprint it. We will have a table of contents to show the context.
So the termination pay, we haven't made a decision or haven't give direction, I guess, of if we want to pay for sick leave If they get terminated, do we want to be involved in the termination?
We're gonna get involved, we're gonna rewrite the ordinance, but I like the idea is if, how they leave, how they separate, if it's separate out, if it's positive or negative.
We can talk about it in the context of separation benefits or separation occurrance.
But I think they're on-
Define which way.
If you do, then you could put up to 400 hours,
Yeah,
because that's the max you pay out. So if you worded that right, then you could put up to 400 hours.
And understand that in the context of what is practice right now is that you're not eligible for that until after you've worked 10 years here. And that would be a discussion that I expected to have with you on the last section, because then in fact, you want to know whether working here 10 years to get eligible is something that's appropriate or not.
Maybe we need to see what the benefits would be if you stay here and then go off of that program to put back to what you're gonna get if you get fired.
And that's the reason why I'm asking whether you want to do that before or after the ASME negotiation. After. Go after. So we've gone full circle here.
but I think it still makes sense to, in the term, to do like the mayor said, or suggested, and put the termination pay provisions with the
I get that.
termination provisions.
I get
And then, and separate them out in terms of, you know, leave on good terms, leave on bad terms, basically, where it's, you separate out the typical
What
termination.
I'm gonna say in, for the affirmative is I'll be making reference to the, I'll say, here's the benefit. I'll make reference to the other portion of the personnel manual as to what the benefit is.
Then just, I think, separate out. You gave notice, you didn't get fired for stealing money or committing a crime.
Right.
And I think that's.
Okay. All right, I'll rework this then and give it back to you in the next council. All right, that's all I got for this.
Do some more pretzels.
You can laugh.
Yeah, pages and.
You can laugh.
Just one more on the, you got the pay plans attached to this?
Those would be appendices to the,
Okay, so then as every year when we do the new resolution, this will change?
every year, yes.
So that'll have to be worded in here too, that this changes.
It does say that this, that it says in there that it's adjusted annually by the budget process.
All right, because since we're changing the up to 3% thing, some of them numbers could be different if we chose that.
I'm gonna just leave those in there, but you're gonna say up to 3%. But the fact of the matter is that this is a plan that has established these ranges, and we recognize that the satisfactory step is a 3% 3 different times.
But could possibly, is subject to change.
Subject to change in what regard? I want to be clear what you're saying.
If we change this back here to be up to 3%, if it's performance based, so if we
In
decide.
other words, we gave you the option of having a 1 or 2%.
So if we don't go a full 3% on the step, then this plan is not correct.
Well, let's put it in this context. If somebody gets a 1% increase for 1 year, and they have a satisfactory performance and goes for 3% the next year, they're still gonna be within that salary range. The salary range is established. We're not talking about changing the salary.
You gotta be a rocket scientist to read it.
Okay.
We ain't approved it yet, so it's pretty long. Claims,
Never.
Done.
get just licensed umbrellas now.
What?
Get the licensed umbrellas.
License umbrellas.
Got an umbrella license. Oh, must be an insurance.
Umbrella policy.
Don't give them any ideas. Chris will be wanting to issue permits for umbrellas.
Cha-ching.
$5 a piece.
Anybody got any questions on the claims? Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comments? Reports, Gary?
Yeah, Essential Massage came in this afternoon to indicate that they intend to go for a TIF application. What I will do with that is get the information more specifically for your consideration by contacting Ehlers and Cooney to actually put together the TIF agreement. We'll present it to you, hopefully, I'm not gonna assume that Ehlers can get it done in 2 weeks, but we'll find out. If not, it will be in 4 weeks. But we need to discuss during that period of time, the other half of the city is looking at doing incentives, which is related to giving abatements on water and sewer utilities. We don't have a policy. We've talked about it generally through Main Street, but the point being is that this will be your opportunity to help establish the policy, at the same time creating that opportunity. So we will bring this forward to you. Think about whether you want to do 100% for how long, or 50% for how long, or whatever you want to do as far as utility abatement. I know that that's been something. We also know that we can't do it with electric and gas because it's far more regulated by the state. So that'll be coming forward to you either in 2 or 4 weeks. Secondly, the entire Public Works Department this year is going to take Friday afternoon off for the county fair. It's easier to just schedule it that way. I'm suggesting that we do the same thing for the city offices. Just take, as the case here with the union contract, people get half a day off. And then everybody seems to be in agreement in the offices just Friday afternoon off. So I'm suggesting that we close for the fair that Friday afternoon. Is that okay with you folks?
As long as they go to the fair.
Well, I'm going to comment about the benefit. It's been done, so it's part of our culture. Also, we are getting more requests from people to get somehow to have the sewer charges not apply to people with people who are filling swimming pools. As you know, we use water to fill swimming pools, and automatically that water charge becomes a sewer charge. Now, the argument is that, well, we're not discharging that back into the sewer. No. In some cases, if it goes out in the street and gets into the leaking sewers and gets there anyway. We have not given an allowance for not having a sewer charge in the past. And that I want to know whether you want to pursue a policy to change this. If you don't, I'm not going to bring it up anymore. We sell water in a bulk rate when it's delivered in a normal circumstance. But typically, when we're talking about people filling up their swimming pools, they're using the garden hose, which obviously has a sewer charge. To do this, if we had metering concerns, it becomes expensive. If they wanted to do the metering, all of a sudden it becomes more expensive for us if we start hauling meters from one place to the other and how many you have. And to be honest with you, the cost is minuscule. And if you are having a 3,000 gallon minimum use and all of a sudden you exceed by 1,000 gallons for the year or 2,000 gallons or 10,000 gallons, you're talking about a water charge one time that is probably worth the value of the water and for that matter, the sewer charge. If you want to talk about it from the standpoint of what the cost estimate is. It would be a pretty significant administrative task to undertake this rather specialized thing, but if you want me to bring it back, just tell me and I'll bring it back to you in 2 weeks.
We waive sewer charges if someone has a tank break or like a water main building. I guess I kind of do that the same way.
But that's, I mean, if you have a break at your house.
I'm using the sewers, same logic.
But you're also, that's your pipe, it's not ours.
No, yeah, I understand, yeah. But I don't, kind of saying, some cities will do that sort of, if we're not doing it one-on-one. I don't know that it makes sense to do.
Well, the meter's in your house, so it's gonna have to be a pipe break in your house before you're gonna pay.
Yeah, it's gotta be on your side of the meter.
It's gotta be on your side of the T-box.
I don't have a problem if they bring their sheet of paper in that says they bought this swimming pool and it holds 5,500 gallon and they, to forgive the sewer portion of that, if maybe we just pick a month or two. Well, fill your pool in May or April or May.
I'm not looking for solutions right now, I just wanna know that you wanna talk about this.
I think so.
What are you looking at for 5,000 gallon? How much is a sewer?
$40 sewer, but we just raised it, right? $8, $8.50 or whatever you just
It's
raised.
$40 and $41.25.
$8 1,000.
It's $8.25
So if you had a 10,000 gallon pool, it's $80.
$82.50.
On the sewer charge.
Where'd that read out?
And if your meter ain't right, it could be more than that.
It could be less too. The meter ain't right. Do you want me to bring back or not?
How many pools you got?
15 or so.
Mine's small.
I left mine 3/4 full over the winter. I don't know, I probably did put 1,000 gallons back in mine.
I don't ever use it. Probably didn't even go past the minimum charge then for your house.
Oh, the minimum went up.
Yeah,
We
well,
don't worry about minimum charges.
How many people have you had approach?
One
One or two?
We had about 3, I think, right now. And
One just came in today.
yeah, we've had.
Bring something back.
All right, then can I say, I'm a gardener, got lots of flowers.
Here we go.
You gotta give me a little forgiveness
Can
for
we
my
do
watering.
Can we do outdoor meters? Is that something we permit folks to install?
If they buy them and install them, then that's the cost.
And then they,
But
but if they do that, then they don't, if they put an outdoor meter in, do they not pay sewer on the out, I mean, do we have that structure where they outdoor meter in?
It's been approved on a per case basis by the council historically.
and the cost of the outdoor meter becomes too expensive to justify it.
I know folks that do a lot of in-ground irrigation, sometimes will do gardening or the yard or whatever.
A lot of in-ground irrigation
Yeah.
ends up in the sewer.
Yeah. It causes, yeah, it causes, you're right. it causes
So does the
a lot
emptying of the swimming pool.
You know, the last time I emptied mine, it never got to the street, it was so dry.
Brendan makes a point, I mean, Pandora's box here.
That's why I don't water my garden, because I don't wanna pay for the sewer. It's cheaper to buy vegetables at the farmer's market.
I do keep a detailed log of how much my flowers cost each year, so with the investment I've got is worth the water.
Green meat, 39 cents a can. You aren't catching rainwater, are you?
Is that all you got, Gary?
Just one other thing, Mayor, and that is I'm taking tomorrow off, it's vacation day.
You know that's illegal, right?
What?
Could take a day off.
Catching rainwater.
No, I didn't know it was illegal. Well, then I'm glad my barrel isn't out this summer.
Is
Isn't it a very bad thing? Is it really illegal?
One of them obscure things, still on the books as being illegal.
we're thinking.
I am.
Popo to your house tomorrow.
And maybe
You're stealing water.
You already got after me one thing earlier this summer. I didn't realize I was such a rebel.
You're stealing water too.
Riding my ATV, please. Okay,
Did you get a license for your ATV?
no, it's not mine. I'm not gonna ride the thing anymore. You're not gonna catch me on it. Honest engine.
It's illegal.
Go ahead, Brendan.
Okay, all right. I gave everybody a packet of financial reports. So it starts out with the balance sheet for June 30. Let me see, followed by the revenues by fund as of June 30. The budget report is expenses by fund. Then you've got a budget report by function, and that's the report that I want us all to look at each month, because as the year progresses, we have to remember the state says we can't exceed the function. Followed by the treasurer's report, which is your fund balances. And then for June 30th especially, that's going to show you have a budget report that shows all the expenses by line account. Okay. I also attached July statements as of today, about 6 o'clock tonight. Very same items. The very, very last page is the page we looked at really early in the meeting. I wanted to be sure that you saw fund balance is June 30th, the transfers in, the transfers out, and the results. I will be in the office all day tomorrow should anyone have questions, and I am still in the process of reconciling June bank statements.
Chris?
Oh,
yeah, that's fine. We'll switch it up a little.
Couple things, I've had some vacation time over the last few weeks and I'm lax on getting around nailing people on the lawn mowing, so tomorrow I'm gonna go out and take notes and we'll send letters on Monday, make sure we have everything moved up in the next couple weeks. Dilapidated houses, I got together with Heather, what was it, a couple weeks ago? We talked about, I just needed some help going through the process on exactly, I mean, I read it and we've talked about it, but it wasn't clear. So she really helped bring some clarity to the process. So I've gone around and documented several homes. I'm in the process of first just doing some initial uninformal calls, just to say, hey, we've got an issue with your house, need to get it taken care of, I'm gonna give you a week to get it started. And then if they don't, then we're gonna begin the formal process. That formal process will start with a notification letter detailing what they need to do with pictures and this is what's expected. And from that time, our ordinances give them 90 days. So they've got they have to commence work within 48 hours and they've got 90 days in order to complete that work. Once we hit that 90-day mark, then, and correct me at any point if I'm wrong, we will, our intent will be to, we have many different approaches, but our intent is gonna be to acquire those homes through the court system so that they're unencumbered. There's no more liens against them or anything like that. So I just want to make that clear because we're beginning a process where we're going to start tagging people and trying to get them to repair their properties. But if they don't, I just want to make sure we're all on board. Our intent is to take them home. So when we're talking about taking people's property, I want to make sure you're all aware.
What does 48 hours mean? They have to commence in 48 hours. Does that mean I put a sign in my yard that Joe Blow Construction is gonna be here and working, or does that?
I'll direct you to her because our ordinance says commence work within 48 hours.
Yeah, so it depends on what's in the letter, like if the letter tells you mow your yard, I mean, or it tells you, hey, you need to get this rail going up on this, or fill in, like there's broken glass everywhere, pick up the glass, I mean, some sort of effort showing that you're doing what's asked of you in the letter, like you won't be able to stabilize your house if it's falling in within 48 hours, but, be able to tell Chris that, hey, I've contacted ABC Construction and they're gonna come and estimate, review everything and give me an estimate on everything.
And if they don't start working, they either need to start work or have a plan presented to you that they're gonna do, or does that next to 90 days?
We didn't go through that scenario, so I don't know. What happens if they don't begin within 48 hours? Or does it accelerate the timetable?
You could, you could say, hey, you didn't do this within 48 hours, we're gonna accelerate, and it's now gonna be, you only have 45 days to do it, or we're gonna put it on the agenda now with the city council to say, city council, what do you wanna do? These people are basically telling me they're not gonna do anything.
As a practical matter, you're probably waiting 90 days, I would think, because they could come back and say, well, I commenced work, I ordered the drywall, or I moved my furniture,
But they could make, if they haven't physically done anything, they can still present a plan. They can come in and say, hey, I've done this, this, and this, and I got a guy coming that's gonna start on it in 2 weeks.
Well, even after you start the court process, if you say, hey, I want the, court, give me title to the property, and the property owner comes in there and says, hey, we've got a plan, then, you could always say, okay, well, I'm gonna give you this much time. It doesn't mean just because you start the court action that there's no turning back, meaning like they could still come forward. But most of the time when you get to the court process, they've already made a decision that they're not gonna do anything. But, sometimes randomly, somebody will come forward and say, hey, I'm sorry that I didn't do anything. Here's my plan. Can you just give me 3 months? And, that would be up to the city whether or not to give them 3 months or not. But the point of trying to get the property is to then give it to somebody who's going, or, sell it to somebody, with the express statement that they have to fix it in order to get title to that. They have to do all those things and fix it to make it actually a property that's not a nuisance.
But if somebody needs 6 months to fix it, they can say, hey, it's gonna take that.
Yeah, we have some discretion, but if we want to do it on an the tightest frame is assuming that they try to comply, it's 90 days and then 60 days. So, food trucks, I know we've had some new food trucks in town, and there's been some questions that you may have received about what's the licensing process. So our ordinance states that if a food truck is serving, if it's a temporary business and it's serving out of the truck, it doesn't matter if it's on private or public property. If they're not local, then they are required to get a peddler's permit, which is $50 a week or $100 a month. So we've got one food truck right now that really qualifies.
That's way too cheap.
That may be, but that's the ordinance right now. If y'all want to change it, you let me know.
There's one metal in town today.
That's the one we're talking about.
Right.
Car wash.
Yeah, it's Missouri.
I see that.
So about a year ago, y'all defined local as Davis County.
Do we, kind of probably a stupid question, do we limit where they can be if they're parked in the street? Does the ordinance,
We don't have anything in the ordinances that talks about that. They'd have to follow parking regulations. And so far, that hasn't been an issue. It's all been.
But if you peddler permit allow you to block traffic for over a certain period of time, wouldn't that fall under peddling if you're parked on private or public property?
Let's say you parked in if you parked in a parking space that was accessible with, you're only using one space, then I suppose perhaps there's a way you could do that and not be violating parking laws. It hasn't been a thing, and so we haven't really gotten into it.
I just know maybe if you had a parking truck, if you had a vendor parking right in front of a restaurant on the square in public space, maybe.
Right. That might be. And so we probably address that through traffic laws right now, but it hasn't been a thing at this point. But I'm glad you brought up on the square. Some of you may have gotten some feedback about, there's been some talk around town about sidewalks and picking up the community. And so, you know, we've talked off and on about plans for sidewalks around the square. And I'm not suggesting that we go whole hog here, but we haven't brought it up for a while. Is it time to start talking about it again? I mean, right now, just to be clear, the ordinance states that the sidewalks are the responsibility of the adjacent landowners. We haven't, for quite some time, gone out and tagged people for having sidewalks that are in disrepair or weeds. So I'm asking, do we need to talk about that range? Should we begin that process? Do we want to talk about going out and painting X's on pieces of sidewalks and saying it's time to fix them? So is it still untouchable? Are we getting to the point where we want to discuss it again or not? And you don't have to answer that now, but since it's come up in Facebook and it's been in the press, I just thought maybe we ought to, I ought to know whether you want to have those conversations or not have those conversations. If you got thoughts, I'll take them, but if you want to wait.
If we're gonna, can we have a discussion about the curbs and sidewalks without going all streetscape?
We can do whatever you want. Yeah, I'm not in here to promote an agenda. I'm just asking, what do y'all want?
I'm all for taking about sidewalk curb and about 2 or 3 foot of street.
And I think that process needs I think the lighting problem we have that needs fixed, I think all needs to be in that same conversation, because it only makes sense to do them all at the same time.
So what I'm hearing is, we're ready to start talking about it again. We're not making decisions tonight, other than let's start having the conversation, right? Okay.
So, and I guess it's just make sure we're, the city responsible, we're to pay, green bin sidewalk.
City's responsible for that?
My understanding.
So just in, whether or not we got here the right way or not, but we have agreed to pave the south sidewalk where it's gravelled in front of Green Bin.
That was agreed upon with the original owner of the building by previous city management, I believe, because they dug it up, and I think was the building sold, it just, they think it moved with it. Because they dug that up and fixed some. The city dug it up and fixed something there, and I think when the building sold, I think the owner of the building passed that agreement on to the next guy that bought it, telling him that the city's supposed to fix it. Because it's all, ever since Bohai bought it, or Williams bought it, I think that's the understanding he had from Stahl, because I think the agreement was with Stahl. That's the understanding I have of it. Now, I have no idea.
The sidewalk on the east side and on the south side of gravel, are we talking about both?
No, we've committed, the city's committed to the south side. The east side is the property owner's issue.
We need to get a.
Because this person, I would predict the first thing we get when we start repairing one person's sidewalk is the next property owner that we say you gotta repair, there's gonna be all kinds of questions about that out there.
That would be my concern.
And I also have a concern, that you have commercial enterprises generating income and the city's paying for that. We're going to homeowners that might be unlimited income and letting them have to do it on their own. That would be the other.
We haven't even gone down the road for residential.
But, oh yeah, if we go that route, that's what I'm saying, that would be the concern is that.
Right.
The understanding generally was that would get picked up in the streetscape plan, but obviously that's not, so the question is who are we going to do it? There has been a verbal commitment, we don't have anything in writing. It's kind of like what's going on with Early Bird too, so. Commitment's been made a long time ago. We don't have anything memorialized in writing.
Okay, last thing, this one is fun for me. I assume every one of you has been on the website every day checking out the solar array production because that was important, right? Well, okay, so I just want to give you an update. What's that?
It's on there.
It's on there. It's been on there for months.
I've never been able to find it or get to it.
I'll be happy to give you some guidance. So far this year, from January through May, the solar field has produced 6% of our electricity. In April, it produced 10%, and in May, it was 14%. What the cool thing is, though, it is performing financially better than we expected. Year to date, it has, if we had, versus buying the same electricity from SIUC, we've saved $10,000. And so, I mean, it's, and here, I want to explain why, because it was unexpected. So our peak happens, you know, our production is like this, our load for the city is like this, and this usually happens sometime between 3 and 7 p.m., right? And the solar production goes up and over something like this. So most of the time, this peak is happening on this downward curve. But every once in a while, the peak, our peak, monthly peak happens up here. And the difference between the value of this electricity down here, if you subtract this curve from this curve, there's some money savings on the peak side, right? And the difference between the value here and the value here, that space, in terms of the solar energy, is about $14,000. So when you have a month where that hits, it wipes away a lot of, I mean, it makes up a lot of savings compared to if the peak's just always down here. That 1 month has a big impact in a relative way. So anyway, when we did all the predictions, we were basing it on the typical stuff, and about 1 every 18 months, you get something happens out of ordinary, and then that has a huge positive impact on it. So anyway, I just wanted to update you a little bit. I know there in the past have been some questions. That's all I had. That's fun.
Danny?
Yeah, so, CDBG grant, like I said, everything's been working on Division 1, we're finishing up on, Northland Drive, finishing up Gregory, and getting ready to move to East Street. So I know we have 2 people in here that concerns East Street, so we're gonna be over here running some stuff, so it's FY, they're
The
moving there.
flowers.
Yep, there goes the water. Don't have to water anymore. So Division 2, which is the sanitary sewer, they will be moving in on Thursday and Friday next week, which will be Drish Construction. So they'll be coming in next week, end of next week, and get ready to start, and we'll be over there on Parkview. So that side of town will be pretty busy here, coming up in the next week. And then, basically, we're doing a lot of locating right now, doing a lot of, locating for all the CBG and all the other house stuff going on. And we had to do a lot of locating for the marking of the roads for the surveyor. So doing a lot of work out there. Spent 3 hours with HRG this morning, and the engineer there, we talked about the CIP, we talked a lot about streets, and really trying to extend that, the CIP money to get more blocks done, and whether we can look at overlays and extend the life of streets, 15 years without doing total reconstruction. So I think we're coming up with pretty good plans. We're gonna bring you some more options to that to look at. And, basically with asphalt overlay, we can look at, potentially doing about, I think it's right around 20 blocks for $1 million. So I mean, you can get a lot more done than reconstruction there. So talking about that, and some of that stuff we didn't get done yet this year. So I think we should look forward to that coming up here in the real close future. We also talked about the bridge again. So now with your guidance where we're at, I can kind of go forward and start pulling some documentation, getting over to HRG, and we get some stuff finalized, get pushing on that. We talked a lot about stormwater intakes. We have identified about 14 stormwater intakes we're going to get out. I don't know if you noticed, there's 2. The DOT actually, we're responsible for the highways, everything on old Highway 2, Highway 63 and 2 coming with this in town. We have a 20D agreement, so the intakes and that kind of stuff are our responsibility, because after on the corner of the square where that one bad spot, that's actually an old DOT RA2 intake, so that's our responsibility. We're gonna open that back up before it was just kind of passed over. Also, right at the vet clinic, just north of town, there's actually 2 intakes, one on each side of the road. If anybody's ever drove out there after a rain, you'll see the whole highway's covered with gravel, right, past that. The reason for that is because those 2 intakes, one on the west side has actually been concreted over, so we're gonna open that back up, get it open, and actually one on the east side feeds into that one, so it can't go anywhere because it's closed and concreted out. So we're gonna get those both back open, the other one sealed it in, so you've got grass growing all in front of it. So get those both back open. DOT's asked us to prioritize that because again, that hazard on the gravel out there. We also have one across some foul right there, just,
They blocked them shut, they want us to prioritize.
no,
opening them up.
we're actually the ones that closed them, so we did that. So,
Notice they painted the lines, but they didn't paint the diagonals.
right, and I don't know if they're coming back, I noticed that today, so I'll figure out what you're doing, I'll get with them, so, yeah, so that was good, they did do some painting, so we're getting followed up. Then it's a crew too, so I don't know if they color or whatever, I don't know what the deal was, so I'll, follow up with that. We also talked about seal coating and crack sealing, so working on some of that too with the street. So again, trying to extend that, $2 million as much as we can, and have a plan, for moving forward on some other issues out there. Again, a lot of big things we're doing. North Streets, that's open now. We're not totally done there. We've got some more work we're gonna do on there yet a little bit too, just to kind of help extend that. We have our maintenance, basically our hoist has finally been installed, our compressors have been rebuilt now, so we've got all that kind of back together on the maintenance side. Other than that, just got a lot going on, so working on IEB checklist with electric and everything else. So we did have a power outage on the 3rd. We actually had 2 outages. One was during the morning, and that was actually feeder 1 went down, had a fuse blown, so I don't know what caused the probably just a surge, but we will be having an insurance claim on that from the Davis County High School. They're wanting to file a claim on some compressors that were blown when that phase went down. So we're gonna work through that process. And then also on the 3rd, feeder 4 went down, and it was down and actually due to our lift station. We think that transformer bank out there on Good, at the end of Good, and our lift station might have been struck by lightning. So it also affected our generator a little bit too, so we had some generator repair out there as well. So our generators, we're working on getting a preventive maintenance agreement done. We have 7 generators. They're all a Generac brand, and they basically need some attention. And also 2 of them, at least, they're undersized for the gas. So we gotta look at either potentially moving in some more natural gas tanks or LP tanks, or moving them to natural gas. So the cost would be a lot better preventative to be on natural gas, since we commonly go in course with. Some of your questions, that's all I have right now.
How old are the generators?
I have the age of those. I know there was a couple that was still under warranty, last year we repaired them. I don't have-
They're all out of warranty now.
Yeah, I think it's 5. I don't know how long it's there. I couldn't tell you, I'd have to look, sure, if I have that.
I'm just thinking Generac's not a real good brand. Before we spend a whole lot of money on repairing them, we might look at the option of, replacing them, because at some point we're gonna have to, and if we can do it in steps, you're not buying 7 or 8 at one time.
Yeah, they're built in 14, so they're 5 years.
They're all the same age.
Pretty close. Let me see if I got some other pictures. All within pretty close to there, but I don't have pictures on all 7 of them right now, but
Because there's some of them boards and stuff in them generators. You can get 5,000 or 6,000 wrapped up pretty easy just from fixing electric components, and you can, what are they, 130s?
we have 7, one 150, one 130, actually 2 150s, one 130, and 4 25s.
It's a 25 kVA transfer, KVA generator.
Keep in mind, we're gonna have to buy a new transformer with the wastewater treatment plant, and we'll actually have those that, they'll come out of service out there too for wastewater treatment plant. So we will have some generator expenditures coming up in the next year. Not this year, but the next year.
I'm just thinking, before somebody makes a decision to spend $7,000 or $8,000 on a generator, we need to look at a new one. Because you can buy generators for, you double that, you can get a brand new one. You're back under warranty, and you can replace them over time. If they're all the same age, you've got that chance that a lot of them are all gonna take off, go jump at the same time. Right. You can spread that out.
What's the life of a generator?
We don't run them very often, so I mean, we can extend.
They need to be tested every week.
Right, and they're setting that now, we actually got one program to do that every week now, so that's part of it too, being in that Main Street, we getting it set. They were running them, we weren't running them long enough, that's how we found out, basically, when we put them under full load, like the 130 out of lift station 1, it didn't good, that's never really been running full load. Now they're running full load, it's starving for gas, so it uses 20 pounds of LP an hour, and it wasn't getting that at all, so it started shut down, so we need to increase another tank and whatever, but it's just, full load is different than just testing them, so that's the issue.
Life expectancy of a generator is based on the generator and how it's sized for the job. There's 1,800 RPM generators, there's 3,600 RPM generators that don't last near as long because they run higher RPM. It's all, the life expectancy is all based on how you buy the generator. They can last 30 or 40 years if maintenance has been taken care of. But you gotta buy a good quality generator. And Generac's not, there's better sprays. That it?
Yes, sir.
Council updates? Mayor comments. 4:18 and 19, emergency notification system was tabled to be brought back to the next meeting. Never talked about it since.
The 418 what?
On 4:18 of 19, we tabled the emergency notification system to be brought back to the next meeting, and it's never been talked about since. And I also had a couple comments about the food vendors. I'd like to have that on the agenda for the next meeting with a copy for everybody of the ordinance to look at and see if there's changes we want to make to it. And another question I got is, how often do you have staff meetings?
We're scheduling them now.
How often have you had staff meetings?
We don't have them on a scheduled basis. We're going to schedule them now every other week. What did we say, the Monday, or no, the Thursday before the council meeting day. A week before the council.
A week before the council meeting?
Opposite the council.
The opposite of council.
I think it'd be best served to have it the day of the council meeting so that
No,
y'all
we
can
need-
get on the same page.
We need to have it on that day so that we can start setting the agenda for the following week. That's why we did it that way.
I still don't think it would hurt to have one the day of the meeting so that everybody knows what's on the agenda and can discuss it.
I think
If you have a meeting to set the agenda, there's things added to it, and then nobody's
We're
always
trying,
fully
we're
aware.
trying our darndest to try and get the agenda set per the policy that's been established to have it done by Friday and Monday, but that doesn't happen.
And why does it not happen?
People do not submit on time.
Maybe they need better, they need encouraged